Exodus. These are the names of the sons of Israel who are coming into Egypt with Jacob, every man in his household have they come: Reuben, Simeon, Levi, Judah, Issachar, Zebulun, Benjamin, Dan, Naphtali, Gad, Asher. And all the people that came out of the loins of Jacob were 70 people, for Joseph was in Egypt already. Then Joseph died and all his brothers, that whole generation. The children of Israel were also fruitful and increased abundantly and became numerous, and grew exceedingly strong, and the land was filled with them. Then there was established a new king over Egypt that did not recognize Joseph. And he said to his people, "Understand this, the people of the children of Israel are more numerous and stronger than ourselves. Therefore let us act judiciously with them, or they will become numerous, and if a conflict arises, they will join to our enemies and fight against us and will depart out of our land." Then they set over them a slave czar to weaken them with compulsory service. And they built for Pharaoh the storage cities, Pithom and Ramses. But the more they weakened them, the more they became numerous and increased. Then they began to detest the children of Israel. And the Egyptians imposed on the children of Israel very harsh and severe labor. And they made their lives bitter with cruel slave labor, in cement and brick, and in all forced labor of the cultivated field, all their labor was forced on them with harshness. The king of Egypt spoke to the Hebrew midwives, whose names were Shiphrah and Puah. And he commanded them, "When you assist as midwives to the Hebrew women and see them on the bearing stools, if it be a son then you shall kill him, but if it is a daughter then she shall remain alive." But the midwives feared Elohim, and did not do as the king of Egypt commanded them, but kept alive the baby boys. Then the king of Egypt summoned the midwives and asked them, "Why have you been doing your business and saving the boy babies alive?" The midwives replied to Pharaoh, "Because the Hebrew women are not as the Egyptian women, for they are very vigorous and deliver before the midwives get to them." Then Elohim was pleased with the midwives, and the people became numerous and exceedingly stronger. And because the midwives feared Elohim, many new homes were made. Then Pharaoh gave orders to all his people, commanding that every son born will be thrown into the Nile River, but every daughter will remain alive. Now a man from the house of Levi took for a woman, a daughter of Levi, and the woman became pregnant and gendered a son. But when she saw he was an excellent baby, she hid him for 3 months. But when she could no longer hide him, she made for him an ark, vessel, of papyrus, and overcoated it with tar and pitch, then put the baby in it and floated it among the water reeds by the Nile River's bank. Now his sister stood a distance off to see what would become of him. And the daughter of Pharaoh came down to bathe herself in the Nile River, and her attendants walked along the Nile's bank, and when she saw the ark, vessel, among the water reeds, she sent her female slave to get it. When she opened it, she saw the baby, and it was crying, but she had compassion on him and said, "This is one of the Hebrews' offspring." Then his sister spoke to Pharaoh's daughter, "Shall I go and call for you a nurse of the Hebrew women, that she may nurse the baby for you?" Pharaoh's daughter replied to her, "Go." So the girl went and called the infant's mother. Pharaoh's daughter said to her, "Take this baby away and nurse it for me, and I will pay you wages." So the woman took the infant and nursed it. And the baby grew up. Then she brought him to Pharaoh's daughter, and he became her son. Then she called his name Moses, because she said, "For I drew him out of the water." Then it came about in those days, after Moses had grown, that he went out to his relatives and looked on their burdens, and he saw an Egyptian beating a Hebrew relative of his. He then looked this way and that way, and when he saw that there was no one around, he killed the Egyptian and buried him in the sand. Later, when he went out the second day, he saw 2 men of the Hebrews fighting, and he said to him that did the wrong, "Why did you hit your friend?" And he replied, "Who made you a ruler and a judge over us? Do you intend to kill me as you killed that Egyptian?" Then Moses was afraid and thought, "Surely this thing has now become known." When Pharaoh heard about it, he sought to have him executed, but Moses fled from the presence of Pharaoh and lived in the land of Midian, and he sat down by a well. Now the priest of Midian had 7 daughters, and they came and drew water and filled the troughs to water their dad's flock. Then some shepherds came and drove them away, but Moses ran over and defended them, and watered their flock for them. When they came to Reuel their dad, he asked, "How come you are back so soon today?" And they replied, "An Egyptian delivered us out of the hand of the shepherds, and also drew water enough for us, and watered the flock also." Then he replied to his daughters, "Where is he, and why have you left this man? Go call him, that he may eat some food with us." Later Moses accepted the invitation to live with the man, and he gave Moses Zipporah his daughter. She gendered him a son, and he called his name Gershom, for he thought, "I have been a foreigner in a foreign land." As time passed, it came about that the king of Egypt died, and the children of Israel groaned by reason of their bondage, and when they cried, their crying came up to Elohim because of their hard captive labors. Elohim heard their groaning, and Elohim remembered his covenant pledge with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Then Elohim looked on the children of Israel, and Elohim had recognition in store for them. Meanwhile Moses tended the flock of Jethro his father-in-law, the priest of Midian, and he led the flock to the far side of the desert and came to the mountain of Elohim called Horeb. Then the angel of Yhwh appeared to him in a flame of fire out of the center of a bush, and he looked at the bush burning with fire, but the bush was not burned up. Moses thought to himself, I will go over there and see this great sight, why this bush is not burned up. When Yhwh saw that he came over to observe, then Elohim called to him out from the center of the bush and proclaimed, Moses! Moses! And he replied, I am here. He spoke, Do not come any closer now, take off the shoes from off your feet, for the standing place where you stand is sacred ground. He spoke, I am the Elohim of your dad, the Elohim of Abraham, the Elohim of Isaac, and the Elohim of Jacob. And Moses concealed his face, for he was terrified to look on Elohim. Yhwh spoke, I have certainly seen the affliction of my people that are in Egypt, having heard their cries because of their oppressors, and I have known their sorrows. Now I am come down to rescue them out of the hand of the Egyptians and to bring them up out of that land to a good large country, to a land flowing with milk and honey. To the regions of the Canaanites, Hittites, Amorites, Perizzites, Hivites, and the Jebusites. Now therefore listen, the cry of the children of Israel has come to me, and I have also seen the oppression that the Egyptians oppress them with. So go now, for I will send you to Pharaoh that you may bring forth my people, the children of Israel, out of Egypt. Then Moses replied to Elohim, Who am I that I should go to Pharaoh and that I should bring forth the children of Israel out of Egypt? And he replied, Certainly I will be with you, and this will be a sign to you that I have sent you. When you have brought forth the people out of Egypt, then you will serve Elohim, with Levitical service, at this mountain. Moses replied to Elohim, When I come to the children of Israel and say to them, The Elohim of your forefathers has sent me to you, and when they ask me, What is your name? Then what shall I answer them? Elohim replied to Moses, I am that which I am. He also said, This will you say to the sons of Israel, I am has sent me to you. Then Elohim also spoke to Moses, You will say this to the children of Israel, Yhwh Elohim of your forefathers, the Elohim of Abraham, the Elohim of Isaac, and the Elohim of Jacob has sent me to you. This is my name for the ages, and this is my memorial to all generations. Go and gather the elders of Israel together and say to them, Yhwh Elohim of your forefathers, the Elohim of Abraham, of Isaac, and of Jacob appeared to me, saying, I have certainly observed you and have seen what is done to you in Egypt. Now I have spoken, I will bring you up from the afflictions of Egypt to the land of the Canaanites, Hittites, Amorites, Perizzites, Hivites, and the Jebusites, to a land flowing with milk and honey. And they will obey your voice, and you will come, along with the elders of Israel, to the king of Egypt, and you will say to him, Yhwh Elohim of the Hebrews has met with us. Now let us go for 3 days' journey into the wilderness, so that we may sacrifice to Yhwh our Elohim. I am sure that the king of Egypt will not let you go unless a mighty hand forces him. And I will stretch out my hand, and strike Egypt with all my supernatural powers that I will do among them, and after that he will let you go. And I will give this people favor in the sight of the Egyptians, and it will come to pass that when you go, you will not leave empty-handed, but every woman will inquire of her neighbor, and of her that lives in her house, jewels of silver, gold, and clothing, and you will put them on your sons, and on your daughters, and you will plunder the Egyptians. Then Moses answered and said, Consider this, they will not believe me or listen to my voice, for they no doubt will say, Yhwh has not appeared to you. Yhwh replied to him, What is that in your hand? And he answered, A staff. Then he said, Cast it on the ground. So he cast it on the ground, and it became a snake, and Moses backed away from it fast. Yhwh spoke to Moses, Put out your hand and take it by the tail. And he put out his hand and caught it, and it became a staff again in his hand. This is so they may believe that Yhwh Elohim of their forefathers, the Elohim of Abraham, the Elohim of Isaac, and the Elohim of Jacob has appeared to you. Yhwh also said to him, Put now your hand into your bosom. So he put his hand into his bosom, and when he took it out his hand was leprous as snow. Then he said, Put your hand into your bosom again. And he put his hand into his bosom again and brought it out of his bosom, and it was restored again as his normal flesh. Now if they will not believe you or listen to the herald of the first sign, then they will believe the herald of the latter sign. However, if they will not believe these 2 signs or listen to your voice, then you will take of the water of the Nile River, and pour it on the dry ground, and the water that you take out of the river will become blood on the dry ground. Then Moses replied to Yhwh, O my Adonai, I am not a good speaker, never have been or yet even now since you have spoken to me, but I am slow of speech and of a slow tongue. Yhwh replied to him, Who has made man's mouth? Or who makes the dumb or deaf, or the seeing, or the blind? Has not Yhwh done this? Now therefore go, and I will be with your mouth and will teach you what you will say. And he replied, O my Adonai, please send another one to do this. Then the anger of YHWH burned against Moses, and he replied, Is not Aaron the Levite your brother? I know that he can speak well. Look here, he now comes to meet you, and when he sees you his heart will rejoice. You will speak to him putting the words in his mouth, and I will be with your mouth and with his mouth, and will teach you what you will do. He will be your spokesman to the people, and he will be your mouth, and you shall be alone to him. Then, you will take this staff in your hand to perform these signs. Moses went and returned to Jethro his father-in-law and said to him, Let me go and return to my relatives that are in Egypt, and see whether they are still alive. So Jethro replied to Moses, Go in peace. YHWH spoke to Moses in Midian, Go, return to Egypt, for all the men are dead that sought your life. Then Moses took his woman and his sons, and set them on a donkey, and he returned to the land of Egypt, and Moses took the staff of Elohim in his hand. YHWH spoke to Moses, When you return to Egypt, see that you do all these signs before Pharaoh that I have put in your hand, but I will harden his heart so that he will not let the people go. And you will say to Pharaoh, Thus says YHWH, Israel is my son, even my firstborn. And I say to you, Let my son go that he may serve me, and if you refuse to let him go I will kill your son, even your firstborn. Now it came to pass on the way, in the place of lodging, that YHWH encountered Moses' son, and was required to kill him. But Zipporah took a flint knife and cut off the foreskin of her son, and touched it to Moses' feet and said, Surely a husband of blood, rights, are you to me? So he let him go. Then she repeated, A husband of blood, rights, are you to me, with regards to the rites of circumcision. Then YHWH spoke to Aaron, Go into the wilderness to meet Moses. And he went and met him at the mountain of Elohim and hugged him. Moses told Aaron all the words of YHWH who had sent him, and all the supernatural signs that he had commanded him. Then Moses and Aaron went and gathered together all the elders of the children of Israel. And Aaron spoke all the words that YHWH had spoken to Moses, and performed the supernatural signs in the sight of the people. Then the people believed, and when they heard that YHWH had visited the children of Israel, and that he had observed their affliction, then they bowed their heads and prostrated. Then later Moses and Aaron went in, and told Pharaoh, This is what YHWH Elohim of Israel commands, Let my people go that they may hold a festival to me in the wilderness. But Pharaoh replied, Who is YHWH that I should obey his voice to let Israel go? I do not know YHWH, neither will I let Israel go. And they answered, The Elohim of the Hebrews has met with us, so now let us take 3 days' journey into the desert and sacrifice to YHWH our Elohim, lest he fall upon us with pestilence or with the sword. Then the king of Egypt answered them, Why do you Moses and Aaron keep the people from their works? Go back yourselves now to your compulsory service. And Pharaoh said, Look, the people of the land now are numerous, and you make them rest from their burdens. Then Pharaoh commanded that day the slave drivers of the people and their officers, saying, You will no longer give the people straw to make white brick as previously, let them go and gather straw for themselves. And require them to make the same formula of bricks as before, do not reduce their quota, for they are slacking when they cry, saying, Let us go and sacrifice to our Elohim. Let their service be heavy on the men, and let them work at it and not be dazzled by lying words. So the slave drivers of the people went out with their officers, and they spoke to the people, saying, Pharaoh declares, I will not give you straw. Go you now and get your straw wherever you can find it, yet none of your work shall be curtailed. So the people were dispersed abroad throughout all the land of Egypt to gather stubble instead of straw. Then the slave drivers pressured them, saying, Finish your daily tasks on time, as when there was straw. And the officers of the children of Israel, that Pharaoh's slave drivers had set over them, were beaten and demanded, Why have you not completed your task in making brick both yesterday and today as previously? Then the officers of the children of Israel came and cried to Pharaoh, saying, Why have you dealt with your slaves this way? There is no straw given to your slaves, and they say to us, Make brick, and then your slaves are beaten. You do therefore wrong your people. But he replied, You are idle. You are idle, that is why you say, Let us go and do sacrifice to YHWH. So now get to work, because there will be no straw given to you, yet you will deliver the quota of bricks. After this the officers of the children of Israel saw that they were in great trouble after hearing, You are not to reduce the quantity of bricks required of you daily in your work. And they found Moses and Aaron standing to meet them when they came out from Pharaoh. Then they said to them, YHWH, look on you and judge, because you have caused our scent to stink in the eyes of Pharaoh and in the eyes of his servants, to put a sword into their hand to kill us. Moses returned to YHWH and asked, Adonai, why have you so injured this people, and why have you sent me? For since I came to Pharaoh to speak in your name, he has done injury to this people, and you have not rescued your people at all. Then Yhwh spoke to Moses, Now shall you see what I will do to Pharaoh, for with a strong hand shall he let them go, and with a strong hand shall he drive them out of his land. And Elohim spoke to Moses, saying, I am Yhwh. I appeared to Abraham, to Isaac, and to Jacob by the name of El Shaddai, but my name Yhwh was not revealed to them. And I have also established my covenant pledge with them, to give them the land of Canaan, the land of their lodging where they lived as foreigners. And I have also heard the groanings of the children of Israel whom the Egyptians kept in slavery, and I have remembered my covenant pledge. Therefore say to the children of Israel, I am Yhwh, and I will bring you out from under the compulsory service of the Egyptians, and I will rid you from their slavery, and I will redeem you with a stretched out arm, and with great acts of judgment. I will take you to myself as my own people, and I will be to you Elohim, and you will know that I am Yhwh your Elohim that brings you out from under the compulsory service of the Egyptians. I will bring you into the land of which I lifted up my hand to give it to Abraham, to Isaac and to Jacob, and will give it to you as an inheritance. I am Yhwh. Then Moses spoke these things to the children of Israel, but they did not listen to Moses because of their mental anguish, and because of the cruel slavery. Yhwh then spoke to Moses, saying, Go in, speak to Pharaoh king of Egypt that he let the children of Israel go out of his land. And Moses spoke before Yhwh, saying, The children of Israel have not listened to me, how then will Pharaoh hear, I also being of uncircumcised speech? Then Yhwh spoke to Moses and Aaron and gave them a command for the children of Israel, and to Pharaoh king of Egypt, to bring the children of Israel out of the land of Egypt. These are the heads of their dads' houses, the sons of Reuben the firstborn of Israel, Hanoch, Palu, Hezron, and Carmi, these are the tribe of Reuben. The sons of Simeon, Jemuel, Jaman, Ohad, Jachin, Zohar, and Shaul the son of a Canaanitish woman, these are the tribe of Simeon. These are the names of the sons of Levi according to their genealogies, Gershon, Kohath, and Merari, and the years of the life of Levi was 137 years. The sons of Gershon, Libni, and Shimi, according to their clans. The sons of Kohath, Amram, Izhar, Hebron, and Uzziel, and the years of the life of Kohath were 133 years. The sons of Merari, Mahali and Mushi, these are the clans of Levi according to their genealogies. And Amram took him Jochebed his father's sister for a woman, and she gendered him Aaron and Moses, and the years of the life of Amram were 137 years. The sons of Izhar, Korah, Nepheg, Zitri. The sons of Uzziel, Mishael, Elzaphan, Zithri. Then Aaron took him Elisheba, daughter of Aminadab, sister of Nashon, for a woman, and she gendered him Nadab, Abihu, Eleazar, and Itamar. The sons of Korah, Asir, Elkanah, and Abiasaph, these are the families of the Korites. Then Eleazar Aaron's son took him one of the daughters of Putiel for a woman, and she gendered him Phinehas, these are the heads of the dads of the Levites according to their tribe. This is Aaron and Moses to whom Yhwh said, Bring out the children of Israel from the land of Egypt according to their hosts. These are they that spoke to Pharaoh king of Egypt, to bring out the children of Israel from Egypt, these are Moses and Aaron. Now when Yhwh spoke to Moses in the land of Egypt, Yhwh spoke to Moses saying, I am Yhwh, speak to Pharaoh king of Egypt all that I say to you. But Moses replied to Yhwh, I am of uncircumcised speech, so how will Pharaoh listen to me? Yhwh spoke to Moses, See, I have made you Elohim to Pharaoh, and Aaron your brother shall be your prophet. You will speak all that I command you, and Aaron your brother will speak to Pharaoh that he send the children of Israel out of his land. And I will harden Pharaoh's heart and multiply my signs and my miracles in the land of Egypt. And Pharaoh will not listen that I may put my hand on Egypt, and will bring out my hosts, my people, the sons of Israel, from the land of Egypt by great acts of judgment. And the Egyptians will know that I am Yhwh, when I stretch forth my hand upon Egypt and bring out the children of Israel from among them. Then Moses did, and Aaron also, as Yhwh commanded them. Moses was 80 years old and Aaron 83 years old when they spoke to Pharaoh. Then Yhwh spoke to Moses and to Aaron saying, When Pharaoh will say to you, Perform a miracle, then you will say to Aaron, Take your staff and cast it before Pharaoh, and it will become a snake. Then Moses and Aaron went into Pharaoh, and they did as Yhwh had commanded, and Aaron cast down his staff before Pharaoh and before his slaves, and it became a snake. But Pharaoh also called for crafty men, and for sorcerers and the diviners of Egypt, they also with their flashings, did similar things. For they cast down every man his staff, and they became snakes, but Aaron's staff swallowed up their staffs. And he hardened Pharaoh's heart, so he did not listen to them as Yhwh had spoken. Then Yhwh spoke to Moses, Pharaoh's heart is hardened and he refuses to let the people go. Now go to Pharaoh in the morning when he goes out to the water, and you will stand by the river's bank to meet him, and the staff that was turned to a snake will you bring in your hand. And you will say to him, YHWH Elohim of the Hebrews has sent me to you saying, let my people go that they may serve me in the wilderness, and previously you would not listen. So YHWH now declares, in this you will know that I am YHWH, for I will strike with the staff that is in my hand upon the waters of the river, and the waters shall be turned to blood. And the fish that are in the river will die, and the river will stink, and the Egyptians will weary to drink of the water from the river. YHWH spoke to Moses, say to Aaron, take your staff and stretch out your hand upon the waters of Egypt, upon their streams, rivers, ponds, and upon all their pools of water, that they may become blood. So there will be blood throughout all the land of Egypt, both in vessels of wood, and in vessels of stone. Moses and Aaron did as YHWH commanded, and he lifted up the staff and struck the waters that were in the river, in the sight of Pharaoh and in the sight of his slaves, and all the waters that were in the river turned to blood. Then the fish that were in the river died, and the river stank, and the Egyptians could not drink of the water from the river, and there was blood throughout all the land of Egypt. But the diviners of Egypt also did this with their secret arts, and Pharaoh's heart was hardened, neither did he listen to them as YHWH had said. Pharaoh turned and went into his house, and did not even take this to heart. Then all the Egyptians excavated around the river for water to drink, for they could not drink of the water from the river. And 7 days passed after YHWH had struck the Nile River. Then YHWH spoke to Moses, go to Pharaoh and say to him, this is what YHWH declares, let my people go that they may serve me. But if you refuse to let them go, I will strike all your regions with frogs. Then the river will bring forth frogs abundantly, that will go up and come into your house, and into your bedroom and on your bed, and into the house of your slaves, and on your people and into your ovens and into your bread bowls. The frogs will come up both on you, and on your people and on all your slaves. Then YHWH spoke to Moses, say to Aaron, stretch forth your hand with your staff over the streams, rivers, ponds, and cause frogs to rise up onto the land of Egypt. Aaron stretched out his hand over the waters of Egypt, and the frogs came up, and covered the land of Egypt. But the diviners did so with their secret arts, and also brought up frogs upon the land of Egypt. Then Pharaoh called for Moses and Aaron and said, make supplication to YHWH, that he may take away the frogs from me, and from my people, and I will let the people go that they may perform sacrifice to YHWH. Moses replied to Pharaoh, explain yourself to me, at what time shall I make supplication for you and for your slaves, and for your people to destroy the frogs from you and your houses, so that they may remain in the river only? And he answered, tomorrow. Then he replied, let it be according to your word, that you may know that there is none like YHWH our Elohim. The frogs will depart from you, and from your houses and from your slaves, and from your people, and they will remain in the river only. Moses and Aaron went out from Pharaoh, and Moses cried to YHWH because of the frogs that he had brought against Pharaoh. Then YHWH did according to the word of Moses, and the frogs died out of the houses, out of the villages, and out of the fields. And they gathered them together into heaps, and the land smelled very bad. But when Pharaoh saw that there was relief, he hardened his heart and listened not to them as YHWH had said. Then YHWH spoke to Moses, say to Aaron, stretch out your staff and strike the dust of the land, that it may become gnat swarms throughout all the land of Egypt. And they did so, for Aaron stretched out his hand with his staff and struck the dust of the earth, and it became gnat swarms in man and in beast. All the dust of the land became gnat swarms throughout all the land of Egypt. But when diviners attempted with their secret arts to bring forth gnat swarms, they could not. So there were gnat swarms on man and beast. Then the diviners said to Pharaoh, this is the finger of Elohim. But Pharaoh's heart was hardened, and he did not listen to them as YHWH had said would happen. Then YHWH spoke to Moses, rise up early in the morning and stand before Pharaoh when he comes out to the water, and say to him, this is what YHWH declares, let my people go that they may serve me. Or if you will not let my people go, then I will send swarms of flies on you and your slaves and on your people, and into your houses, and the houses of the Egyptians will be full of swarms of flies, and also the ground where they stand. But I will mark out in that day the land of Goshen where my people live, that no swarms of flies will be there. This is so you know that I am YHWH in this land. And I will put a division between my people and your people. Tomorrow will this sign come about. And YHWH did so, and there came a grievous swarm of flies into the house of Pharaoh and into his slaves' houses, and into all the land of Egypt. The land was ruined by reason of the swarm of flies. Then Pharaoh called for Moses and for Aaron and said, you go and sacrifice to your Elohim in the land. But Moses replied, it would not be proper to do so, for we will sacrifice the abominations of the Egyptians to Yhwh our Elohim. Now if we kill those things that the Egyptians worship in their presence, they will stone us. But we must go 3 days' journey into the wilderness and sacrifice to Yhwh our Elohim, as he has commanded us. Then Pharaoh replied, I will let you go that you may sacrifice to Yhwh your Elohim in the wilderness, only you will not go very far away, make supplication for me now. And Moses replied, I go out from you and I will make supplication to Yhwh that the swarms of flies may depart from Pharaoh, his slaves and from his people tomorrow. Only make sure Pharaoh does not deal falsely anymore in not letting the people go to sacrifice to Yhwh. Then Moses went out from Pharaoh and made supplication to Yhwh. And Yhwh did according to the word of Moses, and he removed the swarms of flies from Pharaoh, his slaves, and from his people. There remained not even one. But Pharaoh hardened his heart at this time also, neither would he let the people go. Then Yhwh spoke to Moses, Go into Pharaoh and tell him, This is what Yhwh Elohim of the Hebrews declares, Let my people go that they may serve me. For if you refuse to let them go, and will continue to hold them, the hand of Yhwh is on your livestock that is in the field, on the horses, donkeys, camels, oxen, and upon the sheep, there will be a very grievous plague of disease. But Yhwh will make a division between the livestock of Israel and the livestock of Egypt, and there will nothing die of all that belongs to the children of Israel. Yhwh appointed a set time, declaring, Tomorrow Yhwh will perform this thing in the land. And Yhwh took this action the following day, and all the livestock of Egypt died, but of the livestock belonging to the children of Israel, not one perished. And Pharaoh sent, and found there was not one of the livestock of the Israelites dead. But the heart of Pharaoh was hardened, and he did not let the people go. Then Yhwh spoke to Moses and to Aaron, Take to yourselves handfuls of ashes from the kiln, and let Moses sprinkle it towards the sky in the sight of Pharaoh. Then it will become small dust in all the land of Egypt, and will be an inflammation breaking forth with blisters upon man and upon beast throughout all the land of Egypt. Then they took ashes from the kiln and stood before Pharaoh, and Moses sprinkled it up towards the sky, and it became an inflammation breaking forth with blisters upon man and upon beast. But the diviners could not stand before Moses because of the inflammation, for the inflammation was on all the diviners, and on all the Egyptians as well. Yhwh hardened the heart of Pharaoh, and he would not listen to them as Yhwh had spoken to Moses. Yhwh spoke to Moses, Rise up early in the morning and stand before Pharaoh and say to him, This is what Yhwh Elohim of the Hebrews declares, Let my people go that they may serve me. For this time I am sending all my plagues onto you and on your slaves, and on your people, that you may know that there is none like me in all the land. For now I will stretch out my hand that I may strike you and your people with pestilence, and you will be cut off from the land. But indeed for this I have caused you to stand, so as to show you my power, and for the sake of declaring my name in all the land. Are you not still exalting yourself against my people so that you will not let them go? Mark tomorrow about this time, for I will cause it to rain a very grievous hail such as has never been in Egypt, even from the day of its being founded even until now. Dispatch instructions now and gather your livestock, and all that you have in the field, for upon every man and beast that will be found in the field that will not be brought home, this hail will fall on them and they will die. Then he that feared the word of Yhwh among the slaves of Pharaoh made his slaves and his livestock take refuge into the shelters. But he that regarded not the word of Yhwh left his slaves and his livestock in the open field. Yhwh spoke to Moses, Stretch out your hand towards the skies that there may be hail in all the land of Egypt upon man and beast, and upon every green plant of the field throughout the land of Egypt. Then Moses stretched out his staff towards the skies, and Yhwh sent thunder and hail, and ball lightning ran along the ground, and Yhwh rained hail upon the land of Egypt. And there was hail and fire catching itself in the midst of the hail, very grievous, such as has never been in all the land of Egypt since it has become a nation. The hail struck throughout all the land of Egypt, all that was in the field of both man and beast, and the hail beat down every green plant of the field, and broke every tree in the open field. Only in the land of Goshen, where the children of Israel lived, was there no hail. Then Pharaoh sent and called for Moses and Aaron and confessed to them, I have sinned this time, Yhwh is righteous and I and my people are wicked. Make supplication to Yhwh and it will be enough, so there will not be any more thundering of Elohim with the hail. I must let you go and you will not be delayed again. Then Moses replied to him, As soon as I am gone out of the city I will raise my hands to Yhwh, and the thunder and hail shall stop, then you will know that the land belongs to Yhwh. But as for you and your slaves I know that you will still not fear Yhwh Elohim. So the flax and the barley were destroyed, for the barley was budding and the flax had already bloomed. But the wheat and the spelt were not destroyed, for they were late crops. Then Moses went out of the city from Pharaoh, and he raised up his hands to YHWH, and the thunders and hail stopped and the rain ceased pouring on the land. When Pharaoh saw that the rain, hail and the thunders had stopped, he sinned still more by hardening his heart, both he and his slaves. Then the heart of Pharaoh was hardened, and he would not let the children of Israel go as YHWH had spoken by Moses. YHWH spoke to Moses, "Go into Pharaoh, for I have hardened his heart and the heart of his slaves, that I might show my miraculous signs before him. And so that you may tell in the ears of your son, and of your grandchildren, what things I have severely dealt on Egypt and my miraculous signs that I have done among them, so that you may know how that I am YHWH. Then Moses and Aaron came to Pharaoh and said to him, "This is what YHWH Elohim of the Hebrews declares, how long will you refuse to humble yourself before me? Let my people go so that they may serve me. Or if you refuse to let my people go, then tomorrow I will bring the locust swarms into your region. And they will cover the face of the land so that no one is able to see the land. Then they will devour the remainder of what has escaped that was left for you from the hail, and will eat every tree that grows for you out of the field. They will also fill your houses and the houses of all your slaves, and the houses of all the Egyptians such as your dads, and your forefathers have never seen, from the day that they came to this land until now." And he turned himself away and went out from Pharaoh. After this Pharaoh's slave said to him, "How long will this man be a snare to us? Let the men go so, that they may serve YHWH their Elohim. Don't you know that Egypt is destroyed?" Moses and Aaron were then brought again to Pharaoh, and he said to them, "Go, serve YHWH your Elohim, but who are they that will go?" And Moses replied, "We would go with our young and with our old, with our sons and with our daughters, with our flocks and with our herds would we go, for we must hold a festival sacrifice to YHWH. Then he said to them, "YHWH be with you if I will let you go with your little ones. Clearly you are inclined for the worst. This will not happen. Let the men go and serve YHWH, for that is what you were seeking." And then they were cast out of Pharaoh's presence. Then YHWH spoke to Moses, "Stretch out your hand over the land of Egypt for the locust swarms, that they may come up upon the land of Egypt and eat every green plant of the land, everything that the hail has left." Moses stretched out his staff over the land of Egypt, and YHWH brought an east wind on the land all that day and into the night, and when it was morning the east wind brought the locusts. Then the locust swarms went up over all the land of Egypt and rested in all the regions of Egypt in very numerous quantities. Before this there had never been such locust swarms as these, neither after this will it ever happen again. For they covered the face of the whole ground so that the land was darkened, and they ate every green plant of the land and all the fruit in the trees that the hail had left. There remained no greenery in the trees, or in the herbage of the field, throughout all the land of Egypt. Then Pharaoh called for Moses and Aaron in great haste and said, "I have sinned against YHWH your Elohim and against you. Now take away my sin once again and make supplication to YHWH your Elohim that he may remove this deadly plague." He went out from Pharaoh and made supplication to YHWH. Then YHWH turned a forcefully strong west wind that took away the locusts and cast them into the Red Sea. There remained not one locust in all the regions of Egypt. But YHWH hardened Pharaoh's heart so that he would not let the children of Israel go. Then YHWH spoke to Moses, "Stretch out your hand towards the sky that there may be darkness over the land of Egypt, the darkness that one gropes in." And Moses stretched out his hand towards the sky, and there was a thick darkness in all the land of Egypt for 3 days. They could not see one another, neither rose any from his place for 3 days, but all the children of Israel had light in their dwellings. Pharaoh called to Moses and said, "Now you may go and serve YHWH, only your flocks and your herds will be left behind. Let your little ones also go with you." But Moses replied, "You must give us also sacrifices and burnt offerings, that we may observe our festival to YHWH our Elohim. Our livestock will also go with us, there will not be one hoof left behind, for we must take these to serve YHWH our Elohim, and we do not know with what we must serve YHWH until we get there." But YHWH continued to harden Pharaoh's heart, and he would not let them go. Then Pharaoh said to him, "Get away from me, never see my face again, because in the day you see my face you will die." Moses responded, "You have spoken well, I will see your face again no more." YHWH spoke to Moses, "I will bring one last plague upon Pharaoh and on Egypt, and then afterwards he will let you go from here. When he will let you go he will certainly cast you out of here altogether. Now speak in the audience of the people and let them ask every man of his neighbor, and every woman of her neighbor, jewels of silver and jewels of gold." And YHWH gave the people favor in the sight of the Egyptians. Moreover, the man Moses was very distinguished in the land of Egypt, in the sight of Pharaoh's slaves and in the sight of the people. Then Moses said, "This is what YHWH commands, about midnight I will go out into the midst of Egypt. And all the firstborn in the land of Egypt will die, from the firstborn of Pharaoh that sits on his throne, even to the firstborn of the slave girl that is behind the handmills, and all the firstborn of animals. And there will be a great outcry throughout all the land of Egypt, the like of which never happened before or will ever happen again. But against none of the children of Israel will a dog move his tongue, against man or beast, that you may know how YHWH puts a distinction between the Egyptians and Israel. So will all these servants of yours come to me, bowing down before me saying, Go now, you and all the people who follow you. After that I will go out." Then Moses, hot with anger, left Pharaoh. YHWH spoke to Moses, "Pharaoh will not listen to you so that my miraculous signs may intensify in the land of Egypt." Moses and Aaron did all these miracles before Pharaoh, and YHWH hardened Pharaoh's heart so that he would not let the children of Israel go out of his land. YHWH spoke to Moses and Aaron in the land of Egypt saying, "This month will be to you the beginning of months, it will be the first month of the year for you. Speak to all the company of Israel saying, In the 10th day of this month every man is to take a lamb, according to the house of their fathers, 1 lamb for each household. And if the household is too small for the lamb, let them share one with his neighbor next to his house according to the number of people living there. You will figure the amount of lamb needed in accordance to what each individual consumes. Your lamb will be wholesome and without blemish, a male of the first year. You will take it out from the sheep or from the female goats. And you will keep it until the 14th day of the same month, and the whole company of the people of Israel will slaughter it at sunset. Then they will take of its blood and put some of it on the sides and tops of the doorframes of their houses where they will eat it. And they will eat the meat that night, roasted in the fire with unleavened bread and with bitter herbs, they will consume it. Now do not eat it raw or boiled in water, but roast it with fire, with its head and with legs, including the entrails of the animal. Do not leave any of it until sunrise, but what is left of it you will burn that up with fire. This is how you will eat it, with your hips belted up and your shoes on your feet and with your staff in your hand. You will have eaten it in haste. It is YHWH's sacrifice of Passover. For I will pass through the land of Egypt this night, and will kill all the firstborn in the land of Egypt, both man and animal, and against all the Elohim of Egypt I will execute judgment, for I am YHWH. The blood will be to you for a signal on the houses where you live, and when I see the blood, I will pass over you, and the fatal plague will not be on you to destroy you when I fatally attack the land of Egypt. And this day will be to you for a memorial, and you will observe it as a festival sacrifice to YHWH throughout your generations. You will observe it for a festival as a statute for the ages. 7 days will you eat unleavened bread. On the first day you will remove leaven out of your houses, for whoever eats leavened bread from the first day until the 7th day, that person will be cut off from the body of Israel. And on the first day there will be a sacred assembly by summons, and on the 7th day there will be a sacred assembly by summons. No manner of work will be done those days except for eating food, that is all you can do. And you will observe the festival of unleavened bread, for on this very day did I bring your hosts out of the land of Egypt. This is why you will observe this day in your generations by a statute for the ages of time. In the first month, on the 14th day of the month at sunset, you will eat unleavened bread until the 21st day of the month at sunset. For 7 days no leaven will be found in your houses, and whoever eats what is leavened, even that person will be cut off from the body of Israel, whether he is a foreigner or native Israelite in the land. You will eat nothing leavened, in all your dwellings you will eat unleavened bread. Then Moses called for all the elders of Israel and commanded them, Fetch out and seize yourself a lamb according to your families and kill the Passover. Take a binding of hyssop and dip it in the blood that is in the bowl and apply it to the top and 2 sides of the doorframe, with the blood that is from the bowl. Then none of you will go out the door of his house until sunrise. For YHWH will pass through to strike the Egyptians, but when he sees the blood on the top and 2 sides of the doorframe, YHWH will pass over that door, and will not permit the destroyer to come into your houses to kill you. Then you will observe this as a statute for yourself and your descendants for the ages of time. And it will come to pass when you are come to the land that YHWH will give you as he has promised, that you will observe this service. Then when your children will ask you, What do you mean by this service? You will then tell them, It is the sacrifice of YHWH's Passover, who passed over the houses of the children of Israel in Egypt when he struck the Egyptians and rescued our houses. At this the people bowed down and prostrated themselves. The children of Israel went away and did exactly as YHWH had commanded Moses and Aaron. Then at midnight YHWH killed all the firstborn in the land of Egypt, from the firstborn of Pharaoh that sat on his throne to the firstborn of the captive that were in the prisons, and all the firstborn of animals. Pharaoh rose up in the night, he and all his slaves as well as all the Egyptians, and there was a great cry in Egypt, for there was not a house where there was not one dead. Then he called for Moses and Aaron by night and said, Rise up and depart from among my people, both you and the children of Israel, and go serve YHWH as you have commanded. Also take your flocks and your herds as you have said, and be gone, blessing me too. Then the Egyptians were urgent on the people that they might send them out of the land in a hurry, for they thought, We shall all be dead. And the people took up the dough before it was fermented, their kneading bowls being bound up in their garments on their shoulder. Then the children of Israel did as Moses commanded, and they asked of the Egyptians jewels of silver, jewels of gold, and clothing. YHWH gave the people favor in the sight of the Egyptians, so that they asked of them. So they plundered the Egyptians. The children of Israel journeyed from Ramesses to Succoth, about 600,000 on foot that were men, beside children. And a mixed multitude went up along with them with the flocks, herds, and very numerous livestock. They baked unleavened cakes from the dough that they brought out of Egypt, for it was not leavened because they were expelled out of Egypt, and they could not delay, neither had they prepared themselves any provisions. Now the time that the children of Israel lived in Egypt was 430 years. Then at the end of 430 years, even on that very same day, the hosts of YHWH departed from the land of Egypt. It is a night to be much observed to YHWH for bringing them out from the land of Egypt. This is that night of YHWH to be observed by all the children of Israel in their generations. YHWH spoke to Moses and Aaron, This is the statute of the Passover, and no foreigner will eat of it. But every man's slave that is bought for money, after you have circumcised him, then he can consume of it. A foreigner and a hired slave will not eat of it. The Passover must be eaten inside one's house. Do not take any of the meat outside the house, and do not break any of the bones. All the company of Israel will observe it. And when a foreigner will travel with you and observe the Passover to YHWH, let all his males be circumcised, and then let him come near and observe it. Then he will be the same as a native Israelite born in the land, for no uncircumcised person will eat of it. One law will be in effect for the native Israelite and to the foreigner that lives among you. All the children of Israel obeyed as YHWH commanded Moses and Aaron, so they did. Then YHWH brought the children of Israel out of the land of Egypt by their hosts. YHWH spoke to Moses, saying, Set apart, consecrate, for me all the firstborn of the womb among the children of Israel, both of man and of animal, for they are mine. And Moses said to the people, Remember this day that you came out from Egypt, out of the house of slavery, for by strength of hand YHWH brought you out from this place. There will no leavened bread be eaten. You came out this day in the month of Eb. And it will come about when YHWH will bring you to the land of the Canaanites, Hittites, Amorites, Hivites, and the Jebusites, which he affirmed to your forefathers to bestow on you, a land flowing with milk and honey, that you will observe this service in this month. 7 days you will eat unleavened bread, and on the 7th day it will be a festival to YHWH. Unleavened bread will be eaten 7 days, and anything fermented is not to be seen with you. Leaven will not be seen with you in all your regions. And you will tell your son in that day, saying, This is done, because of what YHWH did to me when I came out of Egypt. This will be for a sign to you upon your hand, and for a memorial between your eyes, that YHWH's law may be in your mouth, for with a strong hand has YHWH brought you out of Egypt. You will therefore observe this statute seasonally from year to year. And after YHWH brings you into the land of the Canaanites as he affirmed to you and your forefathers and bestows it to you, then you will set apart to YHWH all the firstborn of the womb, and every firstborn that comes from your animals, the males will belong to YHWH. And every firstborn of a donkey you will ransom with a lamb, and if you will not ransom it, then you will break its neck, and all the firstborn of Adam among your children will you ransom. In future times when your son asks you, saying, What is this? Then you will say to him, By strength of hand YHWH brought us out from Egypt, from the house of slavery. And it came about when Pharaoh would hardly let us go that YHWH killed all the firstborn in the land of Egypt, both the firstborn of man and the firstborn of animals. That is why I sacrifice to YHWH all the firstborn of the womb that are males, but all the firstborn of my children I ransom. This will be for a sign upon your hand, and for bindings between your eyes, for by strength of hand YHWH brought us out of Egypt. Then when Pharaoh sent the people away, Elohim did not lead them by the route to the land of the Philistines, even though that was shorter, for Elohim said, Unless the people regret leaving when they see war and then turn back towards Egypt. But Elohim led the people by the desert route of the Red Sea, and the children of Israel went up arrayed for battle out of the land of Egypt. Moses also took the bones of Joseph with him, for he had made the children of Israel pledge, saying, Elohim will certainly visit you, and you will carry up my bones out of this place with you. Then they took their journey from Succoth and encamped in Etham, by the edge of the desert. YHWH went before them by day in a pillar of cloud mass to lead them on the journey, and by night in a pillar of supernatural fire, to give them light to go by day and night. He did not take away the pillar of cloud mass by day, nor the pillar of supernatural fire by night from in front of the people. Then YHWH spoke to Moses declaring, "Tell the children of Israel to turn back and encamp near Piharoth, between Migdal and the sea. They are to pitch their camps by the sea, directly opposite Baal-zephon. For Pharaoh will say of the children of Israel that they are distracted in the land and the desert has shut them in. And I will harden Pharaoh's heart, that he will pursue after them, and I will be honored upon Pharaoh and upon all his armies, so that the Egyptians may know that I am YHWH." And the Israelites did so. Then it was told the king of Egypt that the people fled, and the heart of Pharaoh and of his slaves was turned against the people, for they thought, "Why have we done this, that we have let Israel go from serving us?" And he made ready his chariot and took his compatriots with him. He took 600 chosen chariots, and all the chariotry of Egypt, and officers over every one of them. Then YHWH hardened the heart of Pharaoh king of Egypt, and he pursued after the children of Israel, but the children of Israel went out with exalted hands. Then the Egyptians pursued after them, all the horses and chariots of Pharaoh, and his horsemen with his army, and overtook them encamped by the sea, near Piharoth, and opposite Baal-zephon. When Pharaoh drew near, the children of Israel raised their eyes, and saw the Egyptians marching after them, and they were extremely afraid, and the children of Israel cried out to YHWH. Then they said to Moses, "Because there were no graves in Egypt, is that why you have taken us away to die in this desert? What has been done to us by bringing us out of Egypt? Is not this the word that we told you in Egypt, saying, 'Let us alone, that we may serve the Egyptians'? For it would have been better for us to serve the Egyptians than to die in this desert." Then Moses said to the people, "Do not fear, stand still and see the salvation of YHWH that he will show to you today, for the Egyptians whom you have seen today, you will not see them again for the ages of time. YHWH will make war for you, and you will remain silent." Then YHWH spoke to Moses, "Why do you cry to me? Command that the children of Israel continue the advance. Lift up your staff and stretch out your hand over the Red Sea and divide it, so the children of Israel may go on dry land through the middle of the sea. Then I will harden the hearts of the Egyptians, and they will follow them, and I will obtain for myself honor from Pharaoh and his forces, from his chariots and his horsemen. Then the Egyptians will know that I am YHWH, when I have obtained myself honor from Pharaoh, his chariots and his horsemen." Then the angel of Elohim that went in front of the camp of Israel removed and went to the rear of them, and the pillar of cloud mass went from the front and positioned itself to the rear of them. And it came between the camp of the Egyptians and the camp of Israel, and it was a cloud mass of darkness to the Egyptians, but it gave light by night to the Israelites, so that the one camp did not approach the other all that night. Then Moses stretched out his hand over the Red Sea, and YHWH caused the sea to be carried away by a strong east wind all that night, and made the seabed dry land, and the waters were divided. Then the children of Israel went into the middle of the seabed on the dry land, and the waters were a wall to them on their right hand, and on their left. But the Egyptians pursued, and went in after them to the middle of the seabed, even all Pharaoh's horses, his chariots and his horsemen. Then in the morning watch YHWH looked at the armed host of the Egyptians through the pillar of supernatural fire and from the cloud mass, and broke the armed host of the Egyptians by taking off their chariot wheels as they drove them with difficulty, so that the Egyptians exclaimed, "Let us escape from the presence of Israel, Elohim that prevails, for YHWH battles for them against the Egyptians." Then YHWH spoke to Moses, "Stretch out your hand over the Red Sea, that the waters may turn back upon the Egyptians, upon their chariots and upon their horsemen." So Moses stretched out his hand over the Red Sea, and the sea turned back to its ever-flowing position at the coming of sunrise, and the Egyptians tried to escape the rushing waters, but YHWH overthrew the Egyptians in the middle of the sea. And the waters turned back and spread over the chariots, and the horsemen and all the armed host of Pharaoh that came into the Red Sea after them, but there remained not so much as one of them. The children of Israel however had walked on dry land in the middle of the Red Sea, and the waters were a wall to them on their right hand and on their left. So YHWH saved Israel that day out of the hand of the Egyptians, and Israel saw the Egyptians dead upon the seashore. Israel saw the great power that YHWH accomplished over the Egyptians, and the people feared YHWH, and believed YHWH and his servant Moses. Then sang Moses and the children of Israel this song to YHWH, "I will sing to YHWH, for he has triumphed gloriously, the horse and his rider has he dealt treacherously within the sea. YHWH is my strength and song, and he has become my salvation, he is my Elohim and I will beautify him. The Elohim of my father, and I will exalt him. YHWH is a man of war, YHWH is his name. Pharaoh's chariots and his armed host has he directed into the sea, his chosen officers also are drowned in the Red Sea. The deep sea has spread over them, they sank into the seabed's depth as a stone. Your right hand, O YHWH, has become glorious in power, your right hand, O YHWH, has shattered the enemy. And in the greatness of your majesty you have beaten down those that rose up against you, you sent forth your burning anger that devoured them as chaff. And with the wind from your nostrils the waters were heaped up, the flow took an upright position as a heap piling up, and the sea bottom was frozen in the middle of the Red Sea. The enemy said, I will pursue, I will overtake, I will plunder the spoil, I will glut myself on them, I will draw my sword, my hand will repossess them. You did blow with your wind, the sea spread over them, they were submerged as lead in the great waters. Who is like you, O YHWH, among the Elohim? Who is like you, majestic in sacredness, honored in praises, producing extraordinary acts of judgment? You stretch out your right hand, the land swallowed them. You in your mercy have led forth the people that you have ransomed, you have guided them in your strength to your sacred habitation. The people will hear, and be afraid, anguish will take hold on the inhabitants of Palestina. Then the chiefs of Edom will be disturbed, the mighty men of Moab, trembling will take hold of them, all the inhabitants of Canaan will dissolve away. Dread and terror will fall on them, by the greatness of your arm they will be as still as a stone till your people pass over, O YHWH, till the people pass over, that you have acquired. You will bring them in and fasten them to the mountain of your inheritance, in the established place, O YHWH, that you have made for your dwelling, in the sacred place, O Adonai, which your hands have established. YHWH will become king for the ages of ages. For the horse of Pharaoh went in with his chariots and with his horsemen into the Red Sea, and YHWH returned the waters of the sea upon them, but the children of Israel went on dry land in the middle of the sea. And Miriam the prophetess, the sister of Aaron, took a tambourine in her hand, and all the women went out after her with tambourines and with dances. Then Miriam answered them, Sing you to YHWH, for he has triumphed gloriously, the horse and his rider has he misled into the sea. So Moses brought Israel from the Red Sea, and they went out into the desert of Shur, and they went 3 days in the desert and found no water. And when they came to Marah they could not drink of the waters of Marah, for they were bitter, that is why the name of it was called Marah. Then the people murmured against Moses, saying, What will we drink? And he cried to YHWH, and YHWH showed him a tree that when he had cast it into the waters became sweet, and there he made for them a statute and a judgment. So there he tested them and declared, If you will diligently listen to the voice of YHWH your Elohim, and will do what is right in his sight, and will give ear to his commandments and observe all his statutes, then I will put none of these diseases on you that I have brought upon the Egyptians, for I am YHWH that heals you. Then they came to Elim, where there were 12 springs of water and 70 palm trees, and they encamped there by the water springs. And they continued their journey from Elim, and all the company of the children of Israel came to the desert of Sin, that is between Elim and Sinai, on the 15th day of the 2nd month after their departing out of the land of Egypt. Then the whole company of the children of Israel complained against Moses and Aaron in the desert. And the sons of Israel said to them, Oh, if we had died by the hand of YHWH in the land of Egypt, and are sitting by the pots of meat, and are eating bread to gorge ourselves. For you have brought us out to this desert to put all this assembly to death with hunger. YHWH spoke to Moses, I will rain bread from the skies for you, and the people will go out and gather a portion for a day, that I may test them whether they will walk in my law or not. Then on the 6th day they will prepare what they bring in, and it will be twice as much as their usual daily gathering. Moses and Aaron said to all the children of Israel, At sunset you will know that YHWH has brought you out from the land of Egypt. And at sunrise, then you will see the abundance of YHWH, for he hears your obstinacy against him, and who are we that you murmur against us? Then Moses said, This will be when YHWH will give you at sunset meat to eat, and at sunrise bread to the full, for YHWH hears your obstinacy that you murmur against him, and who are we? Your obstinacy is not against us but against YHWH. And Moses spoke to Aaron, Say to all the company of the Israelites, Come near before YHWH, for he has heard your obstinacy. Then it came about as Aaron spoke to the whole company of the Israelites, that they looked towards the desert, and the abundance of YHWH appeared in the cloud. And YHWH spoke to Moses, saying, I have heard the murmuring of the children of Israel, so now tell them at sunset you will eat meat, and at sunrise you will be filled with bread, and you will know that I am YHWH your Elohim. And it came to pass that at sunset the quails came up and covered the camp, and at sunrise dew encircled the encampment. And when the dew that encircled had evaporated from the desert surface, then there was a small flake-like thing, fine as the morning frost on the ground. So when the children of Israel saw it, they said to one another, It is manna, the bread from the skies, for they had no idea what it was. And Moses said to them, This is the bread that YHWH has given you to eat. This is what YHWH has commanded, gather of it as much as each man needs, an omer, 2 quarts, for every man, according to the number of your people that are in your tents. Then the children of Israel did this, and some gathered more while others gathered less. And they measured by the omer, and he who had gathered much had nothing left over, and he who had gathered little had no shortage, each according to his eating they have gathered. Then Moses commanded, Let no man keep any leftovers until the morning. Notwithstanding they did not listen to Moses, but some of them kept it until the morning, and it bred worms, smelling very bad, and Moses was angry with them. They gathered at every sunrise, every man according to his eating requirements, and when the sun became hot it melted. Then on the 6th day they gathered twice as much bread, 2 omers for each man, and all the chiefs of the assembly came and told Moses. And he said to them, This is what YHWH has commanded, tomorrow is the observance of the holy Sabbath to YHWH, bake what you will bake today and boil what you will boil, and what remains keep over for yourselves until sunrise. And they laid it up until sunrise as Moses commanded, and it did not stink, neither were there any worms in it. Then Moses said, Eat what remains today, for this day is a Sabbath to YHWH, today you will not find it in the field. 6 days you will gather it, but the 7th day is the Sabbath, on that day there will be nothing. After this there went out a few of the people on the 7th day to gather it, but they found nothing. Then YHWH spoke to Moses, How long refuse you to observe my commandments and my laws? Now keep in mind that YHWH has given you the Sabbath, that is why he gives you 2 days' worth of bread on the 6th day. Every man is to remain in his place, let no man go out of his place on the 7th day. So the people rested on the 7th day. The house of Israel called the name of it Manna, and it was like coriander seed, white, and the taste of it was like waffles made with honey. And Moses said, This is the thing that YHWH commands, fill an omer of it to be kept for your generations, that they may see the bread that I have fed you with in the desert, when I brought you out from the land of Egypt. Moses said to Aaron, Take a pot, and put an omer full of manna in it, and lay it up before YHWH, to be kept for your generations. As YHWH commanded Moses, so Aaron laid it up before the sacred writings to be kept. The children of Israel had eaten manna 40 years until they came to inhabited settlements of land, they consumed manna until they came to the borders of the land of Canaan. Now an omer is 1/10 part of an ephah. Then all the company of the sons of Israel traveled from the wilderness of Sin on their travels, by the command of YHWH, and encamped in Rephidim, and there was no water for the people to drink. Then the people quarreled with Moses and said, Give us water so that we may drink. But Moses replied to them, Why are you quarreling with me? Why do you test YHWH? And the people thirsted there for water, and then people complained against Moses and said, Why is it that you have brought us up out of Egypt to kill us and our children and our livestock with thirst? Then Moses cried to YHWH, What shall I do for this people? They are almost ready to stone me. YHWH spoke to Moses, Go on ahead of the people and take with you some of the elders of Israel, and your staff that you used to strike the Nile River with, take that in your hand and go. I will stand before you by the rock in Horeb, and you will strike the rock, and there will come water out of it so that the people may drink. And Moses did so in the sight of the elders of Israel. He called the name of the place Massah and Meribah, because of the quarreling of the children of Israel, and because they tested YHWH, saying, Is YHWH among us or not? Then Amalek came, and fought with Israel at Rephidim. Moses said to Joshua, Select out from us men and go out and make war with Amalek. Tomorrow I will stand on the top of the hill with the staff of Elohim in my hand. So Joshua did as Moses had said to him and fought with Amalek. And Moses, Aaron and Hur went up to the top of the hill, and when Moses held up his hand then Israel prevailed, but when he let down his hand, Amalek prevailed. So Moses' hands were heavy, and they took a stone and put it under him, and he sat on it. Then Aaron and Hur supported up his hands, the one on the one side and the other on the other side. Now his hands were supported until sunset came. Joshua weakened Amalek and his people with the edge of the sword. YHWH said to Moses, Write this for a memorial on a scroll and recite it in the hearing of Joshua, for I will exterminate the memory of Amalek from under the cosmos. Moses built an altar and called the name of it YHWH Nisi, YHWH our banner, and declared, Because a hand is on the throne of YHWH, war comes to Amalek from YHWH from generation to generation. When Jethro, the priest of Midian, Moses' father-in-law, heard of all that Elohim had done for Moses and Israel his people, and that YHWH had brought Israel out of Egypt. Then Jethro, Moses' father-in-law, took Zipporah, Moses' woman, after she had been sent home, and her 2 sons. One was named Gershom, for he said, I have been a foreigner in a foreign land. And the name of the other was Eliezer, for the Elohim of my dad said he was my help, and delivered me from the sword of Pharaoh. Then Jethro, Moses' father-in-law, came with his sons and his woman to Moses in the desert where he encamped at the mount of Elohim. And he said to Moses, Your father-in-law Jethro has come to you and brings your woman and her 2 sons with her. Moses went out to meet his father-in-law and bowed down, and hugged him, and they asked each other how they have fared, and they came into the tent. And Moses told his father-in-law all that YHWH had done to Pharaoh and to the Egyptians for Israel's sake, and all the hardship that had come on them by the way and how YHWH rescued them. Jethro rejoiced for all the goodness that YHWH had accomplished for Israel, whom he had rescued from the hands of the Egyptians. Then Jethro said, Blessed is YHWH who has rescued you from the hands of the Egyptians and from the hand of Pharaoh, who has rescued the people from under the hands of the Egyptians. Now I know that YHWH is greater than all the Elohim, for in this thing they have acted proudly, but he is above them. Then Jethro, Moses' father-in-law, procured a burnt offering and sacrifices for Elohim, and Aaron came, and all the elders of Israel to eat bread with Moses' father-in-law before Elohim. Then the next day when Moses sat to govern the people stood by Moses from sunrise to sunset. When Moses' father-in-law saw all that he did for the people, he asked, What is this thing that you do for the people? Why sit you yourself alone here and all the people stand by you from sunrise to sunset? And Moses replied to his father-in-law, Because the people come to me to inquire of Elohim. When they have a matter they come to me, and I judge between one and another, and I teach them to know the statutes of Elohim and his laws. Then Moses' father-in-law said to him, The thing that you do is not good. You will certainly wear down, both you and this people that are with you, for this thing is too heavy of a burden for you. You are not able to perform this by yourself alone. Listen now to my voice, I will give you counsel, and Elohim will be with you. You must be Elohim's representative for the people and bring their business to him. And you will teach them statutes and laws, and will show them the way where they must walk, and the work that they must do. Furthermore, you will provide out of all the people able men, such as fear Elohim, men of truth hating unjust gain, and place such people over them to be rulers of thousands, and rulers of hundreds, rulers of 50s and rulers of 10s. And let them govern the people in all seasons, and it will be when every great matter comes up they will bring it to you, but every small matter they will judge, so it will be easier for yourself and they will bear the burden with you. If you will do this thing and Elohim commands you so, then you will be able to endure, and all this people will also go to their places in peace. So Moses consented to the voice of his father-in-law, and did all that he had proposed. Then Moses chose able men out of all Israel and made them chiefs over the people, rulers of thousands, rulers of hundreds, rulers of 50s and rulers of 10s. And they governed the people in all seasons, but the difficult matters they brought to Moses, but every insignificant matter they judged themselves. Then Moses let his father-in-law depart, and he went back to his own land. In the 3rd month, when the children of Israel had gone out of the land of Egypt, on that very day they came to the desert of Sinai. For they had left Rephidim and were come to the desert of Sinai, and had pitched in the desert, and there Israel camped in front of the mountain. Moses went up to Elohim, and YHWH called to him out of the mountain, saying, This is what you will say to the house of Jacob, and tell the children of Israel. You have seen what I did to the Egyptians, and how I lifted you on eagle's wings and brought you to myself. Now if you will obey my voice indeed, and observe my covenant, then you will be a valued possession to me above all people, for all the earth is mine. And you will be to me a kingdom of priests and a sacred nation. These are the words that you will speak to the children of Israel. Moses came and called for the elders of the people and said in front of them all the words that YHWH commanded him. Then all the people answered together and said, All that YHWH has spoken we will do. So Moses returned the words of the people to YHWH. YHWH spoke to Moses, I come to you in a thick cloud mass that the people may hear when I speak with you, and believe you for the ages. And Moses told the words of the people to YHWH. Then YHWH spoke to Moses, Go to the people and consecrate them today and tomorrow, and let them wash their clothes, and be ready by the 3rd day, for on the 3rd day YHWH will come down in the sight of all the people upon Mount Sinai. And you will set boundaries for the people on every side, saying, Be careful for yourselves, that you do not go up into the mountain or touch the outskirts of it, because whoever touches the mountain will certainly be put to death. Not even a hand will touch it, except he will certainly be stoned or shot, whether it is animal or man, it will not live, but when the trumpet sounds long, then they may come up to the mountain. Then Moses went down from the mountain to the people and consecrated the people, and they washed their clothes. He also said to the people, Be prepared for the 3rd day and refrain from sexual relations with your women. Then at sunrise on the 3rd day there were thunders and lightning, and a massive cloud mass upon the mountain, and the sound of the trumpet exceeding loud, so that all the people that were in the camp trembled. Moses brought out the people from the camp to meet with Elohim, and they stood at the lower part of the mountain. Mount Sinai was wholly a smoke from the presence of Yhwh who has come down on it in fire, and its smoke goes up as smoke of the furnace, and the whole mountain quaked exceedingly. And when the noise of the trumpet sounded long and became louder and louder, Moses spoke and Elohim answered him with a voice. Then Yhwh came down upon Mount Sinai on the top of the mountain, and Yhwh called Moses up to the top of the mountain, and Moses went up. Yhwh spoke to Moses, Go down and warn the people unless they break through to Yhwh to gaze, and many of them perish. And let the priests also that come near to Yhwh consecrate themselves, so that Yhwh does not break out against them. Moses said to Yhwh, The people cannot come up to Mount Sinai, for you charged us saying, Set boundaries around the mountain and consecrate it. And Yhwh said to him, Away, get you down and you will come up, you and Aaron with you, but let not the priests and the people break through to come up to Yhwh, so that he does not break forth on them. So Moses went down to the people and spoke to them. Then Elohim spoke all these words, saying, I am Yhwh your Elohim, that has brought you out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of slavery. 1. You will have no other Elohim before me. 2. You will not make to yourselves any idol or any image of anything that is in cosmos above, or that is in the land, or that is in the water. You will not bow down yourself to them nor serve them, for I, Yhwh your Elohim, am a jealous Elohim, punishing the depravity of the fathers upon the children to the third and fourth generation of those that hate me, and showing goodness to thousands of them that love me, and observe my commandments. 3. You will not take the name of Yhwh your Elohim in vain, for Yhwh will not hold him guiltless that takes his name in vain. 4. Remember the Sabbath day is consecrated. 6 days will you labor, and do all your work. But the seventh day is the Sabbath of Yhwh your Elohim, in it you will not do any work, you, your son, daughter, male and female slave, livestock, nor the foreigner that resides within your gates. For in 6 days Yhwh made the visible universe and earth, the sea and all that is in them, and rested on the seventh day. Then Yhwh blessed the Sabbath day, and consecrated it. 5. Honor your father and your mother, that your days may be long on the land that Yhwh your Elohim gives you. 6. You will not murder. 7. You will not commit adultery. 8. You will not steal. 9. You will not testify as a false witness against another person. 10. You will not covet another person's house, you will not covet another man's woman, nor his male or female slave, nor his ox, nor his donkey, nor anything that is another person's. All the people saw the thunder and lightning and heard the sound of the trumpet, and the mountain smoking, and when the people saw and heard these things they were shaken and stood some distance away. And they said to Moses, Speak you with us, and we will hear, but do not let Elohim speak with us, or we will die. Moses replied to the people, Do not be terrified, for Elohim has come to test you and to put his fear into your faces so that you do not sin. And the people were some distance away when Moses approached the dark cloud mass where Elohim was. Then Yhwh spoke to Moses, This is what you will say to the children of Israel, You have seen that I have talked with you from the sky. You will not make Elohim of silver to be worshipped along with me, neither will you make to yourselves Elohim of gold. An altar of earth you will fashion for me, and will sacrifice on it your burnt offerings and peace offerings, your sheep and oxen in every place where I record my name. I will come to you and I will bless you. And if you will make me an altar of stone, you will not build it of hewn stone, for if you lift up your tool on it you have defiled it. And do not approach my altar by steps so that your nakedness is exposed on it. Now these are the ordinances that you will establish for them. If you acquire a Hebrew slave, 6 years he will serve, but in the 7th he will go out as a freeman for nothing. If he came in by himself he will go out by himself, if he was a husband then his woman will go out with him. If his master has given him a woman and she has gendered him sons or daughters, the woman and her children will be her master's, and he will go out by himself. But if the slave will plainly say, I love my master, my woman and my children, and I will not go out as a freeman, then his master will bring him to the judges, and he will also bring him to the door, or to the door post, and his master will pierce his ear through with a boring instrument, and he will serve him for the ages. If a man sells his daughter to be a female slave, she will not go out as the male slaves do. If she does not please her master, who has betrothed her to himself, then he will let her be ransomed. He has lost his right to sell her to foreigners because he has dealt deceitfully with her. And if he has betrothed her to his son, he must give her the rights of a daughter. If he acquires for himself another woman, her food, her clothing and her conjugal rights will not be diminished. But if he does not do these 3 things for her, then she will go out free with no payment of money. He that strikes a man so that he dies will certainly be put to death. However, if he did not do it on purpose but Elohim allowed him to befall into his hand, then I will appoint you a place where he will flee. But if a man boils up in a rage to another person, to murder him by design, you will take him from my altar so that he may be executed. He that strikes his father or his mother will certainly be put to death. He that kidnaps a man and sells him, or if he is found in his possession, he will certainly be put to death. And he that curses his father or his mother will certainly be put to death. And if men fight together and one strikes another with a stone or with his fist, and he does not die but is bedridden, if he gets up and walks around on his staff, then will he that struck him be exempt from punishment. He will only pay for the loss of his time and will see that he is completely healed. If a man strikes his slave or his female slave with a club, and he dies by his hand, he will certainly be punished. Notwithstanding, if the slave recovers in a day or two, he will not be punished, for he is his property. If men fight and hurt a woman with child, so that her offspring miscarries, and if no harm follows, he will certainly be punished according as the woman's husband will impose on him, and he will pay according to what the assessment has been determined. And if any harm follows, then you will deliver up life for life, eye for eye, tooth for tooth, hand for hand, foot for foot, burning for burning, wound for wound, bruise for bruise. And if a man strikes the eye of his slave or the eye of his female slave, so that it is destroyed, he will let him go free because of his eye. And if he strikes out his male or female slave's tooth, he will let him go free because of the tooth. If an ox gore a man or a woman that they die, then the ox will certainly be stoned, and its flesh will not be eaten, but the owner of the ox will be exempt. But if the ox was addicted to goring with its horns in times past and the owner was notified but he has not kept it fenced in, and it has killed a man or a woman, the ox will be stoned and the owner also will be executed. If a ransom is required of him, then he will give for this ransom of his life whatever is demanded of him. Whether he has gored a son or daughter, it will be done to him according to this ordinance. If the ox will gore a male or female slave, he will give to their master 30 shekels of silver and the ox will be stoned. If a man will open a cistern, or if a man will dig a well and not cover it, and an ox or a donkey falls into it, the owner of the cistern will pay any loss and give money to the owner of them, and the dead animal will be his. And when a man's ox strikes the ox of another person and it dies, then they will sell the living ox and split the money, and also the dead one will they divide. But if it has been known that the ox is used to goring in times past, and the owner has not kept him in, he will certainly pay ox for ox, and the dead ox will be his own. If a man will steal an ox or a sheep, and slaughters it or sells it, he will restore 5 oxen for an ox, and 4 sheep for a sheep. If a thief is found in the middle of a burglary and is beaten so that he dies, there will be no blood spilled in exchange for his. But if this occurs after sunrise to the thief, there would be spilling of blood due for him. The thief will be required to make restitution or be sold for his theft. If the thief is caught red-handed, whether it is ox, donkey or sheep, then he will restore double. If a man causes the depasturation of a field or vineyard, or has sent in his own livestock to strip the field of another, he will certainly make restitution from his own field according to the yield of it. But if the whole field is stripped, then he will be required to make restitution from the choicest parts of his own field or vineyard. If fire breaks out and catches in thorn bushes so that the stacks of corn or the standing grain, or the entire field is put aflame, then he who started the fire will make restitution. If a man will deliver to another person money or articles to safeguard, and it is stolen out of the man's house, if the thief is found, let him pay double. But if the thief is not found, then the master of the house will be brought to the judges, to investigate whether he has put his hand to another person's goods. For every matter of transgression, for ox, donkey, sheep, clothing, or for anything lost that is claimed to belong to another, each party must bring his case before Elohim. He who Elohim condemns will repay double to the other party. When a man gives to another person a donkey, ox, sheep, or any animal to safeguard, and it has died, been injured, or taken captive, with none seeing, then will an oath of YHWH be taken between them both, that he has not put his hand to another person's property. The owner will accept this and no restitution will be made. But if it is stolen from him, he will make restitution to the owner. If it is torn in pieces, then let him bring in the remains as evidence, and he will not be required to make restitution for what is torn. And if a man borrows something from another person and it is injured, or dies, if the owner is not around when it happens, he will certainly make restitution. But if its owner is present with it, he will not make restitution. If it is something hired, then only the hire is due. If a man seduces a virgin that is not betrothed and has sexual relations with her, he will certainly pay the purchase price to acquire her as his woman. Now if her father utterly refuses to give her to him, he will pay money according to the bride price of virgins. Those that practice witchcraft or sorcery will not be allowed to live. Anyone having sexual relations with an animal will certainly be put to death. Whoever sacrifices to any other alone than YHWH alone will be devoted to destruction. You will not treat violently the foreigner nor oppress him, for you are foreigners in the land of Egypt. You will not afflict any widow or orphan child. If you afflict them in any way and they cry at all to me, I will certainly hear their cry, then my nostrils will flare and I will kill you with the sword, and your women will be widows, and your children will be fatherless. If you lend money to my poor people, you should not behave as other creditors treat them, and you will not require interest from these loans. If you take another person's clothing in a pledge, you will return it to him before sunset. For that is his only covering, the mantle for his skin, so how will he sleep? So when he cries to me, I will hear, because I am gracious. You will not curse Elohim nor curse the leader of your people. You will not delay the offerings of the first of your ripe fruit juices, that make vintage wine. The firstborn of your sons you will give to me. Likewise will you do with your oxen and sheep, but for 7 days it will be with its mother, and on the 8th day you will give it to me. You will be sacred men to me, neither will you eat any flesh that is torn of animals in the field, you will throw it to the dogs. You will not raise a false report, do not lay your hand with the wicked to be an erroneous witness. You will not follow a crowd to do bad, and you will not testify in a dispute so as to pervert the judgment of the masses, nor will you be partial to a poor man in his dispute. If you encounter your enemy's ox or his donkey wandering astray, you will certainly return it to him again. If you see the donkey of him that hates you crushed down under its load, do not just walk away, you will certainly provide assistance. You will not pervert the judgment of the poor in his dispute. Keep yourself cleared of false charges and do not execute the innocent and lawful, for I will not vindicate the criminal. And you will not accept bribes, because a bribe blinds the clear-sighted and distorts the words of the lawful. You will not oppress a foreigner, because you know what it's like to be one, seeing you were foreigners in the land of Egypt. For 6 years you will sow your land and will harvest its produce. But in the 7th year you will let it rest and leave it alone, so that the poor of your people may eat, and what remains the animals of the field will eat. The same thing will be done with your vineyard and olive yard. 6 days you will do your work, and on the 7th day you will rest, that your ox and donkey may rest, and the son of your female slave and foreigner may be refreshed too. And in all matters that I have commanded you, be circumspect, and make no mention of the name of other Elohim, nor let it be heard out of your mouth. 3 times a year you will hold a festival to me. You will observe the festival of unleavened bread. You will eat unleavened bread 7 days as I commanded you, in the time appointed of the month Abib, for in that month you came out from Egypt, and no one will observe this before me vainly. And the festival of harvest, the first fruits of your labors that you have sown in the field, and the festival of ingathering at the end of the year, when you have gathered in your labors out of the field. 3 times in the year all your males will appear before YHWH Elohim. You will not offer the blood of my sacrifice with leavened bread, neither will the fat of my sacrifice remain until the morning. The beginning of the first fruits of your ground you will bring into the house of YHWH Elohim. You will not boil a young male goat in his mother's milk. I send an angel before you to guard you along the way, and to bring you into the region that I have established for you. Give heed to him and listen to his voice, do not enrage him, for he will not forgive your transgressions, for my name is in him. But if you will listen and obey his voice and do all that he commands, then he will be an enemy to your enemies, and a vexer to those that cause you trouble. For my angel will go before you and bring you in unto the Amorites, Hittites, Perizzites, Canaanites, Hivites, and the Jebusites, and I will cut them off. You will not bow down to their Elohim, nor serve them or do after their deeds, but you will utterly destroy them and break in pieces their pillars. You will serve YHWH your Elohim, and he will bless your food and water, and I will remove diseases from the inward parts of you. There is not a miscarrying and sterile one in your land, and the number of your days will be full. I will send my terror in front of you and will discomfort all the people you come in contact with, and I will make all your enemies bow their necks to you. I will send hornets in front of you that will drive out the Hivite, Canaanite and the Hittite from before you. I will not expel them from you in 1 year, because the land would become desolate and the animals in the field would multiply against you. But little by little I will expel them from you until you have branched off and inherit the land. And I will set your borders from the Red Sea to the Mediterranean Sea of the Philistines, and from the desert to the Euphrates River, for I will deliver up the inhabitants of the land into your hand, and you will drive them out from your presence. You will make no alliances with them or with their Elohim. They must not remain in your land, or they will induce you to sin against me, for if you serve their Elohim, that will certainly ensnare you. Then he spoke to Moses, Come up to YHWH, you and Aaron, Nadab, and Abihu, and 70 of the elders of Israel, and bow down from a distance. And Moses alone will draw near to YHWH, but they will not draw near, and the people will not ascend up with him either. Moses came and related to the people all the words of YHWH and all the ordinances, and all the people answered with one voice and promised, all the words that YHWH has declared to us we will do. Then Moses wrote all the words of YHWH and got up early in the morning to build an altar below the mountain, and also 12 pillars according to the 12 tribes of Israel. And he sent young men from the children of Israel, and they caused to ascend up burnt offerings, and slaughtered peace offerings of oxen to YHWH. Then Moses took half of the blood, and put it in bowls, and half of the blood he sprinkled on the altar. He also took the scroll of the covenant and recited it in the audience of the people, and they promised, all that YHWH has declared we will do and be obedient. Then Moses took the blood and sprinkled it on the people, declaring, the blood of the covenant that YHWH has made with you concerning all these words. After this Moses, Aaron, Nadab, Abihu, and 70 of the elders of Israel ascended up. Then they saw the Elohim of Israel, and under his feet was a pavement of sapphire, as transparent as the cosmos itself. And against the chiefs of the children of Israel he laid not his hand, they saw Elohim, and did eat and drink. YHWH spoke to Moses, come up to me on this mountain and remain here, then I can give you tablets of stone and a law and commandments that I have inscribed so that you may teach them. Then Moses got up with his servant Joshua, and Moses went up into the mountain of Elohim. He said to the elders, remain here for us until we return to you, Aaron and Hur are with you, so if any man has a case then take it to them. Then Moses ascended up into the mountain, and a cloud mass concealed the mountain. The glory of YHWH settled down on Mount Sinai, and the cloud mass concealed it for 6 days, and on the 7th day he called to Moses out of the middle of the cloud mass. And the appearance of the glory of YHWH were, like devouring flames on the mountain's top, in the eyes of the children of Israel. Then Moses went into the middle of the cloud mass and ascended into the mountain, and Moses was in the mountain 40 days and 40 nights. YHWH spoke to Moses saying, speak to the children of Israel that they take for me a heave offering. From every man whose heart impels him you will take my heave offering. This is the offering that you will take from them, gold, silver, brass, and blue, purple, scarlet, and fine linen, and female goat's hair, and ram skins dyed red, animal hides, and acacia wood. Oil for the light, spices for anointing oil and for spices of incense, onyx stones and stones to be set in the ephod, and in the breastplate. And let them fashion me a sacred tabernacle that I may reside among them. According to all that I will show you, the pattern of the tabernacle and the pattern of all its vessels that you will fashion. They will make the ark of the covenant of acacia wood, 3 3/4 feet in length by 2 1/4 feet wide and 2 1/4 feet high. You will overlay it with pure gold, inside and out will you overlay it, and will make on it a border of gold to encircle it. You will cast 4 rings of gold for it, and attach them to its 4 feet, and 2 rings for the one side of it, and 2 rings for the other side. You will make bars of acacia wood and overlay them with gold. You will insert the bars through the rings by the sides of the ark of the covenant so that the ark may be carried with them. The bars will stay in the rings of the ark and they will not be taken from it. You will set into the ark the testimony that I will give you. You will make a covering lid of pure gold, 3 3/4 feet in length by 2 1/4 feet wide. And you will make 2 cherubim of gold, of hammered work will you fashion them for the 2 ends of the covering lid. Make 1 cherub on one end, and the other cherub on the other end, these will become a part of the covering lid with these cherubim at each end. The cherubim will stretch out their wings above, overshadowing the covering lid with their wings, and their faces will face each other, towards the covering lid will the cherubim faces look. You will set the covering lid on top of the ark of the covenant, and in the ark you will put the testimony that I will give you. And I will meet with you there and will speak with you from off the covering lid, among the cherubim that are on the ark of the testimony. From there my commands will come to the children of Israel. You will also make a table of acacia wood, 3 feet in length by 1 1/2 feet wide by 2 1/4 feet high. And you will overlay it with pure gold and make a border of gold around it. Make a border around it of 3 inches wide and a gold banding around the border. You will make for it 4 rings of gold, and put the rings in the 4 corners that are on the 4 feet of it. Alongside the border/banding will the rings be attached to hold the bar poles used in carrying the table. You will fashion the bar poles of acacia wood and overlay them with gold, so that the table may be carried with them. You will fashion the dishes, spoons, jars, and sacrificial bowls, then cast them all in pure gold. You will set bread on the table in my presence continually. Make a lampstand of pure gold, of hammered work it will be fashioned, its shaft, branches, cups, bulbs, and its flowers will be made of the same piece. And 6 branches will project out of the sides of it, 3 branches of the lampstand from one side, and 3 branches from the other side. 3 cups made like almonds, with a bulb and a flower in one branch, and 3 cups made like almonds in the other branch, with a bulb and a flower, so that 6 branches will come out of the lampstand. And in the lampstand will be 4 cups made like almonds with their bulbs and their flowers. There will be bulbs of 1 piece under the 6 branches that project from the lampstand, a single bulb will be under each pair of branches. Their bulbs and their branches will be of the same, all of it will be one hammered work of pure gold. You will make the 7 lamps, and one will light up its lamps, and they will give light in the area in front of it. The snuffers and the fire holder for it will be made of pure gold. All these vessels will be made with 75 pounds of pure gold. And observe with care that you fashion these according to their design patterns that were given to you in the mountain. You will make the tabernacle with 10 curtains of finely twisted linen, and blue, purple, and scarlet. You will fashion it with cherubim of embroidered work. The length of one curtain will be 42 feet and its width 6 feet. And all the curtains will be the exact same size. 5 curtains will be joined together, and the other 5 curtains joined together too. And you will make loops of blue on the edge of one curtain, at the end in the joining, and so you fashion in the edge of the outermost curtain, in the joining of the second. 50 loops you will fashion in one curtain, and 50 loops you will fashion in the edge of the curtain which is in the second set, the loops being opposite one to another. You will make 50 hooks of gold, and couple the curtains together with the hooks, and it will be one tabernacle. You will make curtains of female goat skins with the hair left on for a covering on the tabernacle. 11 curtains will you fashion. The length of one curtain is 45 feet, its width 6 feet. And the 11 curtains will all be the same exact size. You will join 5 curtains by themselves, and 6 curtains by themselves, and will double over the 6th curtain in the forefront of the tabernacle. And you will make 50 loops on the edge of one curtain, the outermost in the joining, and 50 loops on the edge of the curtain that is joining the second. You will make 50 hooks of brass and put the hooks into the loops, and join the tent together as one complete unit. And the excess overhanging that is left on the tent, the half curtain that is left over, will hang over the rear of the tabernacle. The tabernacle curtains will be 1.5 feet in excess length on both sides, and what remains of the covering will hang over the sides of the tabernacle. You will fashion a covering for the tent of red-dyed ram skins, and a covering on top of animal hides. You will make upright boards for the tabernacle of acacia wood. The length of the board will be 15 feet and its width 2¼ feet. 2 tenons will be in one board for joining together. Make these for all the boards of the tabernacle. So then you will make the boards for the tabernacle, 20 boards on the south side southward. You will make 40 sockets of silver under the 20 boards, 2 sockets under one board for its 2 tenons, and 2 sockets under another board for its 2 tenons. For the second side of the tabernacle on the north side there will be 20 boards. And there are 40 sockets of silver, 2 sockets under one board, and 2 sockets under another board. For the sides of the tabernacle westward you will make 6 boards. And 2 boards will you make for the corners of the tabernacle for their 2 sides. They will be joined together below, and they will be joined together on the top of it by one ring. Do the same for both of these as they are for the 2 corners. There will be 8 boards with their sockets of silver, 16 sockets, 2 sockets under one board and 2 sockets under another board. You will make 5 bars of acacia wood for the boards on the one side of the tabernacle, and 5 bars for the boards of the other side of the tabernacle, and 5 bars for the boards of the rear side of the tabernacle to the west. The middle bar in the center of the boards will go through from end to end. You will overlay the boards with gold and make their rings of gold as receptacles for the bars, and you will overlay the bars with gold. You will rear up the tabernacle according to its blueprint that was shown you in the mountain. You will make a veil of blue, purple and scarlet. This will be finely twisted linen of skilled workmanship, and it will be fashioned with cherubim. You will hang it on 4 pillars of acacia wood overlaid with gold, their hooks made of gold also, upon the 4 sockets of silver. And you will set up the veil on the hooks and will bring in, within the veiled area, the ark of the testimony, and the veil has made a separation for you between the holy place and the Holy of Holies. You will set the covering lid on the ark of the testimony in the Holy of Holies. You will set the table outside the veiled area, and the lampstand opposite the table on the side of the tabernacle towards the south, and you will put the table on the north side. You will make a hanging for the door of the tent of blue, purple and scarlet, being made of finely twisted linen, the work of an embroiderer. You will make for the hanging 5 pillars of acacia wood and overlay them with gold, their hooks were made of gold also, and you will cast 5 sockets of brass for them. You will make an altar of acacia wood, 7½ feet long and wide. The altar is square, and its height is 4½ feet. You will make horns for it at its 4 corners, the horns all being identical, and you will overlay it with brass. You will fashion its pans to receive ashes and make shovels, bowls, 3-pronged forks, and fire holders, and all of these vessels will be overlaid with brass. You will make for it a grated network of brass and will fashion on the grated network 4 rings of brass at its 4 corners. And you will place it under the rim of the altar beneath, so the grated network reaches to the inside center of the altar. You will make bars for the altar, bar poles of acacia wood, and overlay them with brass. And the bars will be put into the rings, and the bars will be on the two sides of the altar to carry it. You will make the altar hollow with boards as it was shown to you in the mountain, so will you construct it that way. You will make the court of the tabernacle. For the south side southward there will be hangings for the court of finely twisted linen of 150 feet in length for one side. The 20 pillars and their 20 sockets will be made of brass, but the hooks of the pillars and their binders will be made of silver. And likewise for the north side there will be hangings for the court of finely twisted linen of 150 feet in length for one side, and its 20 pillars and 20 brass sockets, with the silver hooks and binders. For the width of the court on its westward side there will be curtains 75 feet long with 10 pillars and 10 sockets. The width of the court on the eastern side east will be 75 feet. The curtains on one side of the gate will be 22.5 feet, with 3 pillars and 3 sockets. And the other side will be 22.5 feet, with 3 pillars and 3 sockets also. And for the gate of the court will be a screen covering of 30 feet, made of blue, purple, scarlet, and finely twisted linen, skillfully woven with mixed colored needlework. There will be 4 pillars and 4 sockets. All the pillars around the court will be filleted joints with silver, their hooks will be silver but their sockets will be brass. The length of the court will be 150 feet by 75 feet wide, and the finely twisted linen curtains will be 7.5 feet high, and their base sockets will be made of brass. All the vessels of the tabernacle in all its service and all the tent pegs, besides all the tent pegs of the court, will be made of brass. And you will command the children of Israel that they bring to you pure beaten olive oil for the light, to cause the burning lamp to ascend up continually before the tabernacle in its appointed place. And outside the veil, which is before the testimony, Aaron and his sons will keep the lamp burning from sunset to sunrise before YHWH. This is a statute for the ages of time throughout their generations on behalf of the children of Israel. Let Aaron your brother be brought to you and his sons with him, from among the children of Israel so that they may become my priesthood, even Aaron, Nadab, Abihu, Eleazar, and Itamar, Aaron's sons. You will make holy garments for Aaron your brother for glory and for beauty. You will speak to all that are skillfully inclined, whom I have filled with minds of skill, to fashion Aaron's garments for consecrating him to act as my priest. These are the garments that they will make: a breastplate, ephod, robe, a woven work tunic, a turban, and a girdle. They will fashion holy garments for Aaron your brother and his sons, so that they may act as priests for me in the priesthood. They will take gold, blue, purple, scarlet and fine linen. They will fashion the ephod, waistcoat, of gold, blue, purple, scarlet, and finely twisted linen using highly esteemed labor. It will have the 2 shoulder pieces tied at its 2 edges so that it will be joined together. The girdle of the ephod that is on him, according to its work, is made of the same materials of gold, blue, purple, scarlet, and twisted linen. You will acquire 2 onyx stones and engrave on them the names of the children of Israel. By the order of their birth put 6 of their names on one stone and 6 names on the other. With the work of a stone engraver, like the carvings on a seal ring, you will engrave these 2 stones with the names of the children of Israel. You will fashion them to be encircled in settings of gold. You will put the 2 stones on the shoulders of the ephod for stones of memorial to the children of Israel, and Aaron will bear their names before YHWH on his 2 shoulders for a memorial. You will make settings of gold, and 2 chains of pure gold will be attached to these settings. Of interwoven foliage work will you fashion them. You will make the breastplate of judgment with highly esteemed labor. Like the work of the ephod you will fashion it of gold, blue, purple, scarlet and of finely twisted linen. It is square, doubled, and 9 inches in its length and width. You will set in its settings of stones, making 4 rows of stones. The first row will be sardius, topaz, and a carbuncle, that is the first row. The second row will be emerald, sapphire, and a diamond. The third row will be ligure, agate, and an amethyst. The fourth row will be beryl, onyx, and a jasper. They will be embroidered in gold in their settings. The stones are according to the 12 names of the sons of Israel, like the engravings on a seal ring, each by his name are they representing the 12 tribes. You will make on the breastplate chains at the ends of interwoven foliage work of pure gold. You will fashion on the breastplate 2 rings of gold, and will attach the 2 rings on the 2 ends of the breastplate. You will put the 2 interwoven foliage chains of gold in the 2 rings that are on the ends of the breastplate. And the other 2 ends of the 2 interwoven foliage chains you will fasten to the 2 settings, and attach them to the shoulder pieces of the ephod at the front. Then fashion 2 gold rings and attach them to the lower ends of the doubled pouch, at the edge of it on the inner side next to the ephod. And 2 other rings of gold you will make, and will put them on the 2 sides of the ephod underneath, over against its front, over against its joining, above the girdle of the ephod. They will bind the breastplate by the rings to the rings of the ephod with a lace of blue, that is above the girdle of the ephod, and that the breastplate be not loosened from the ephod. Then Aaron will bear the names of the children of Israel in the breastplate of judgment on his heart, when he goes into the holy place for a memorial before YHWH continually. You will put in the breastplate of judgment the Urim Thummim, and it will be in the doubled pouch of the breastplate near Aaron's heart when he goes in before YHWH, and Aaron will bear the judgment of the children of Israel on his heart before YHWH continually. You will make the robe of the ephod entirely of blue. There will be an opening in the top of it, and there comprises a woven border, similar to a collar, around the opening, and this will prevent it from tearing. You will make pomegranates of blue, purple, and scarlet material around its hem, with bells of gold in the middle around it too. A golden bell and a pomegranate, a golden bell and a pomegranate, on the hem of the robe around it. This will be on Aaron for his service, and the sound will be heard when he goes into the holy place before YHWH and when he comes out, to prevent his death. You will make a plate of pure gold and engrave on it, like the engravings of a seal ring, holiness to YHWH. You will attach to it a blue lace so that it may be on the turban. In front of the turban you will position it. It will be on the forehead of Aaron, and Aaron will bear the guilt of the sacred things that the children of Israel consecrate, all their sacred gifts, and on his forehead it remains continually, so there may be acceptance for them before YHWH. You will embroider the coat of fine linen, and you will make the turban of fine linen, and you will fashion the girdle to be woven with mixed colors. For Aaron's sons you will make tunics and girdles with turbans, that will be fashioned for their glory and beauty. You have clothed Aaron your brother with them and his sons with him, and have anointed them, consecrated their hand, having separated them, and they will serve me in the priesthood. You will make them linen underwear to cover their fleshly nakedness, from the hips to the thigh it will measure. They will be on Aaron and on his sons when they come into the tabernacle at the appointed place, or when they come near to the altar to serve in the holy place. This is so they do not carry in their depravity and die. Now this is a statute for the ages to him and his offspring after him, and this is what you will do to consecrate them for service to me when they act as priests. Take 1 young bull, a male of the herd, and 2 rams, perfect ones, unleavened bread, unleavened cakes mixed with oil, and unleavened wafers smeared with oil and made of wheat flour. You will put them into 1 basket and bring them near in the basket, with the young bull and the 2 rams. And you will bring Aaron and his sons to the door of the tabernacle at the appointed place, and will wash them with water. You will take the garments and put on Aaron the coat, the robe of the ephod and the breastplate, and bind him with the girdle of the ephod. You will place the turban on his head, and set the holy diadem on the turban. Then you will take the anointing oil and pour it on his head, anointing him. You will bring his sons and put coats on them. You will bind them with girdles, Aaron and his sons, and place the turbans on their heads, and the priesthood will be theirs for an age-lasting statute, and you will consecrate Aaron and his sons. You will cause a young bull to be brought before the tabernacle at the appointed place, and Aaron and his sons will lay their hands on the head of the young bull. You will kill the young bull before YHWH by the door of the tabernacle at the appointed place. You will take of the blood of the young bull and put it on the horns of the altar with your finger, and all the remaining blood you will pour out at the foundation of the altar. Take all the fat that covers the entrails, also the fatty appendage of the liver and the 2 kidneys with their fat, and burn them on the altar. But the flesh and skin of the young bull, and its dung you will burn with fire outside the encampment, it is a sin offering. You will also take 1 ram, and Aaron and his sons will lay their hands on the head of the ram. And you will slaughter the ram, and you will take its blood, and sprinkle it on every side upon the altar. You will cut the ram in pieces and wash its entrails and its legs, set them with the pieces and the head. You will sacrifice the whole ram on the altar. It is a burnt offering to YHWH, a satisfying aroma comes up from this altar fire to YHWH. You will take the other ram, and Aaron and his sons will lay their hands on the head of the ram. You will slaughter the ram and take its blood and put it on the tip of the right ear of Aaron and on the tip of the right ear of his sons and on the thumb of their right hand, and on the big toe of their right foot. Then sprinkle the blood on every side upon the altar. You will take of the blood that is on the altar and the anointing oil, and sprinkle it on Aaron, his garments, and on his sons garments with him, and they and their garments will be consecrated. You will also take of the ram the fat and the rump, and the fat that covers the entrails, and the fatty appendage of the liver and the 2 kidneys, and the fat that is on them, and the right shoulder, for it is a ram of installation. And 1 loaf of bread, 1 cake mixed with oil, and 1 wafer out of the basket of the unleavened bread that is before YHWH. You will put all in the hands of Aaron, and in the hands of his sons, and will wave them for a wave offering in the presence of YHWH. You will receive them of their hands, and burn them on the altar for a burnt offering, for a satisfying aroma before YHWH. It is an offering made by altar fire to YHWH. You will take the breast of the ram of Aaron's consecration, and wave it for a wave offering before YHWH, and it will be your portion. You will consecrate the breast of the wave offering, and the shoulder of the heave offering that is waved, and that is heaved, lifted, up, of the ram of the installation, even of what belongs to Aaron as well as what belongs to his sons. And this will belong for Aaron and his sons by a statute, for the ages, from the children of Israel, for it is a heave offering. It will remain a heave offering from the children of Israel from the sacrifice of their peace offerings and their heave offerings to YHWH. The holy garments of Aaron will belong to his sons after him, to be consecrated and installed to office in them. And the son succeeding him as priest will put them on for 7 days, when he comes into the tabernacle at the appointed place, to serve in the holy place. You will take the ram of the installation and boil its flesh in the holy place. And Aaron and his sons will eat the flesh of the ram and the bread that is in the basket, by the door of the tabernacle at the appointed place. They will eat those things with which a propitiatory covering was made at their installation and consecration. No one else is allowed to eat these things because they are holy. And if any of the flesh of the installation or the bread remains until the morning, then you will burn the remainder with fire. It will not be eaten because it is holy. So you will do for Aaron and his sons according to all these things that I have commanded you. You will consecrate them for 7 days. You will offer a young bull every day for a sin offering, for a propitiatory covering, and you will purify from sin the altar, when you have made a propitiatory covering for it, and you will anoint it for consecration. 7 days you will make a propitiatory covering for the altar and consecrate it, and it will be an altar most holy, and whatever touches the altar will also be holy. Now this is what you will offer on the altar, 2 one-year-old lambs every day continually. 1 lamb you will offer at sunrise and the other lamb you will offer at sunset. And with the 1 lamb 2 quarts of flour mingled with the 1 quart of pure pressed oil, and 1 quart of wine for a drink offering. And the other lamb you will offer at sunset, and will do according to the meat and drink offerings for a satisfying aroma, an offering made by altar fire to YHWH. This will be a continual burnt offering throughout your generations, at the door of the tabernacle at the appointed place before YHWH, where I will meet you to speak to you there. And I will meet with the children of Israel, and the tabernacle will be consecrated by my glory. I will consecrate the tabernacle at the appointed place and the altar. I will consecrate also both Aaron and his sons to serve me in the priesthood. I will dwell among the children of Israel and will be their Elohim. And they will know that I am YHWH Elohim that brought them out of the land of Egypt, that I may live among them. I am YHWH their Elohim. You will make an altar of acacia wood for smoking the incense on. It will be 1.5 feet square, length and width, by 3 feet high, and its horns will be one piece with it. You will overlay it with pure gold, its top and sides all around, as well as its horns, and you will fashion around it a border of gold. And 2 golden rings you will make for it under its border, by its 2 corners, upon the 2 walls you will fashion it, and they will be the holes the bar poles will carry it by. You will make the bars of acacia wood and overlay them with gold. You will put it before the veil that is by the ark of the testimony, before the covering lid that is over the testimony, where I will meet with you. Then Aaron will burn the spices of incense every sunrise when he dresses the lamps, and he will burn incense of spices on it. And when Aaron ignites the lamps at sunrise he will burn incense on it, a continual incense before YHWH throughout your generations. You will bring up no foreign incense on it, a whole burnt offering or meat offering, and you will not pour a drink offering on it. Aaron will smear a propitiatory covering on its horns once a year, by the blood of the sin offering of propitiatory covering. Once a year for your generations he will make a propitiatory covering, and it will be most holy to YHWH. YHWH spoke to Moses saying, When you take a census of the children of Israel of their numbers, then every man will pay a ransom for his life to YHWH, at the time of his numbering, so that there will be no plague among them when you take the census. This they will give everyone that passes over to them that have been numbered, half a shekel, about 6 grams, after the shekel of being set apart. A shekel is 20 gerahs. This half shekel will be a heave offering to YHWH. Everyone that passes among them that are numbered, from 20 years old and up, will give an offering to YHWH. The rich will not give more, and the poor will not give less than half a shekel when they give a heave offering to YHWH, to make a propitiatory covering for your lives. You will take the propitiatory covering shekels from the children of Israel and will designate it for the service of the tabernacle at the appointed place, that it may be a memorial to the children of Israel before YHWH to make a propitiatory covering for your lives. YHWH spoke to Moses saying, You will also make a basin of brass and its pedestal also of brass, to wash off with, and you will put it between the tabernacle at the appointed place and the altar, and you will put water in it. For Aaron and his sons will wash their hands and their feet using this basin. When they go into the tabernacle at the appointed place they will wash with water so they do not die, or when they come near to the altar to serve, to burn as incense an altar flame to YHWH. So they will wash their hands and feet that they do not die, and it will be a statute for the ages to them, even to him and to his offspring throughout their generations. YHWH spoke to Moses saying, Take of the choicest spices, 500 shekels of liquid myrrh, 250 shekels of sweet cinnamon, being half as much, and also 250 shekels of sweet calamus, aromatic reed. And 500 shekels of cassia, after the shekel of being set apart, and 4 quarts of olive oil. You will prepare it as a holy anointing oil, a compound mixture, the work of a perfumer, it is a holy anointing oil. You will anoint the tabernacle at the appointed place with it, and the ark of the testimony. And the table and all its vessels, and the lampstand and its vessels, and the altar of incense, and the altar of whole burnt offering with all its vessels, and the basin and its pedestal. You will consecrate them that they may be most holy, whatever touches them will be holy. You will anoint Aaron and his sons and consecrate them, that they may become my priests in the priesthood. You will speak to the children of Israel saying, This will be my holy anointing oil throughout your generations. Upon man's flesh it will not be poured, neither will you make any other like it after its composition, it is holy and will be for holy use by you. Whoever compounds any like this, or whoever puts any of it upon a foreigner will be cut off from his people. YHWH spoke to Moses, Take spices, drops of stacte, onycha, and galbanum, these spices with pure frankincense, each will be in equal amounts. You will prepare it as an incense, a spice mixture after the art of the perfumer, blended together as pure and holy. You will pulverize some of it very fine and designate it for the testimony, in the tabernacle at the appointed place where I will meet with you, it will be to you most holy. And as for the perfume that you will prepare, you will not prepare it for yourselves according to its composition. It will be to you holy for YHWH, and whoever will prepare any like it, to smell its fragrance will be cut off from his people. YHWH spoke to Moses saying, I have called by name Bezaleel the son of Uri, the son of Hur, of the tribe of Judah. I have filled him with the spirit of Elohim in wisdom, understanding, knowledge, and in his occupation to design plans to fashion in gold, silver, and brass, and in cutting of stones to set them, and in carving of timber to fashion all the workmanship. And I myself have given to him Aholiab, the son of Ahisamach, of the tribe of Dan, and in the understanding of all that are skillfully inclined I have bestowed skill that they may fashion all that I have commanded you. The tabernacle at the appointed place and the ark of the testimony, and the covering lid that covers it, and all the articles of the tabernacle, and the table and its articles, and the pure lampstand with all its equipment, and the altar of incense, and the altar of whole burnt offering with all its equipment, and the basin and its pedestal. And the garments of braided work, and the holy garments for Aaron the priest, and the garments of his sons for the priesthood, and the anointing oil and spiced incense for the holy place according to all that I have commanded you, they will accomplish. YHWH spoke to Moses saying, Speak also to the children of Israel saying, Indeed my Sabbaths you will observe, for it is a sign between me and you throughout your generations that you may know that I am YHWH that consecrates you. You will observe the Sabbath because it is holy to you, everyone that profanes it will certainly be put to death, for whoever does any work on that day, that person will be cut off from among his people. 6 days' work may be done, but on the 7th day is the Sabbath observance that is holy to YHWH, whoever does any work on the Sabbath day will certainly be put to death. Therefore the children of Israel will observe the Sabbath, to institute the Sabbath throughout their generations, for an age-lasting covenant. It is a sign between me and the children of Israel for the ages of time, for in 6 days YHWH made the cosmos and earth, but on the 7th day he ceased and was refreshed. Then he entrusted to Moses, after he had finished speaking with him on Mount Sinai, the 2 tablets of testimony, stone tablets, engraved with the finger of Elohim. Now when the people saw that Moses delayed descending from the mountain, they assembled with Aaron and said to him, Arise now and fashion for us alone that will go before us. But as for Moses, the man that brought us up, out of the land of Egypt, we do not know what has become of him. Aaron replied to them, Snatch off the gold earrings that are on the ears of your women, sons, and daughters, and bring them to me. Then all the people snatched off the gold earrings that were in their ears and brought them to Aaron. And he received them from their hands and fashioned with an engraving tool an image cast in the form of a calf, and after he had made it they avowed, These be your Elohim, O Israel that brought you up out of the land of Egypt. When Aaron saw it he then built an altar before it and made a proclamation saying, Tomorrow at the festival gathering to YHWH. They got up early the next day offering whole burnt offerings and brought peace offerings, and the people sat down to eat and drink then arose to play. YHWH spoke to Moses, Go, get yourself back down, for your people that you brought out of the land of Egypt have corrupted themselves. They have departed quickly from the way that I commanded them, and have made them an image cast in the form of a calf and have bowed down to it. They have sacrificed to it and avowed, These are your Elohim, O Israel, that have brought you up out of the land of Egypt. YHWH spoke to Moses, I have inspected these people and they are an obstinate people. Now leave me alone so my nostrils may become inflamed against them and I will destroy them, and then produce from you a great nation. But Moses begged YHWH Elohim saying, YHWH, why do your nostrils inflame against your people that you have brought out of the land of Egypt, with great power and a strong hand? Then the Egyptians will think and answer saying, For calamity did he bring them out, to kill them in the mountains and to consume them off the surface of the land? Turn back your inflamed nostrils, and be grieved over the calamity to your people. Remember Abraham, Isaac, and Israel, your servants to whom you made an oath by your very person and declared to them, I will make numerous your offspring as the stars of the cosmos. And all the land that I have spoken about I will bestow to your offspring, and they will inherit it for the ages of time. YHWH was then moved to pity from the calamity that he spoke of doing to his people. Then Moses turned and descended from the mountain, and the 2 tablets of the testimony were in his hand. These tablets had been engraved on both sides, on both their sides were inscriptions. The tablets were the work of Elohim and the writing was the writing of Elohim, engraved on the tablets. And when Joshua heard the sounds of the people as they shouted, he said to Moses, There is a sound of battle in the encampment. Then he replied, It is not the sound of them that shout for bravery, neither is it the sound of them that cry for being defeated, but is the sound of them bowing down that I hear. Then as he came closer to the encampment he saw the calf and the dancing, and Moses' nostrils became inflamed, and he threw the tablets out of his hands, and they broke in pieces beneath the mountain. Then he seized the calf that they had made and burnt it in the fire, and ground it to powder and scattered it upon the water, and the children of Israel drank it. Moses said to Aaron, What have these people done to you that you have brought upon them a great sin? Aaron replied, Let not the nostrils of my master inflame, you know the people that they are inclined to do bad. For they said to me, Make us Elohim that will go before us, but as for Moses, the man that brought us up out of the land of Egypt, we do not know what has become of him. And I said to them, Whoever has any gold let them snatch it off. So they gave it to me and I cast it into the fire, then out came this calf. Then Moses saw the people that they were unbridled, because Aaron had made it unbridled because of the contempt among those that withstood him. Then Moses stood in the gate of the encampment and declared, Whoever is on the side of YHWH let him come to me. And all the sons of Levi gathered themselves together to him. And he said to them, This is what YHWH Elohim of Israel commands, Let a sword be strapped to each man's side and go in and out from gate to gate throughout the encampment, and kill every man his brother, friend and neighbor. Then the children of Levi did according to the word of Moses, and there were about 3,000 men that were struck down with the sword. Then Moses said, You have been consecrated to YHWH this day, for you were against your own sons and brothers, and he has blessed you today. And the next day Moses told the people, You have sinned a great sin, and now I will go up to YHWH, perhaps I can make a propitiatory covering for your sin. Moses returned to YHWH and said, Oh, this people have sinned a great sin and have fashioned themselves a loam of gold. Yet now, if you will forgive them their sin, forgive, but if not, then blot me out of your book that you have written. YHWH answered to Moses, Whoever has sinned against me, him will I blot out of my book of life. And now go, lead this people to the place that I have spoken to you of. Look here, my angel will go before you, but realize that when the time of my judging comes, then I will send punishment on them for their sins. Then YHWH struck the people because they prepared for the calf that Aaron fashioned. YHWH spoke to Moses, Depart and go up from here, you and the people that you have brought up out of the land of Egypt to the land that I adjured to Abraham, Isaac, and to Jacob, saying, Unto your offspring will I bestow it. And I will send an angel in front of you, and I will drive out the Canaanite, Amorite, Hittite, Perizzite, Hivite, and the Jebusite, unto a land flowing with milk and honey, for I will not go up in the middle of you because you are an obstinate people, for fear I would destroy you on the journey. When the people heard these unpleasant words they mourned, and none put their ornaments on themselves. For YHWH had said to Moses, Say to the children of Israel, You are an obstinate people, I will come up into the middle of you in an instant and destroy you. Now put off your ornaments from yourselves that I may know what to do to you. And the children of Israel stripped themselves of their ornaments by Mount Horeb. Moses took the tabernacle and pitched it outside the encampment, far off from the camp, and called it the tabernacle at the appointed place. And it came to pass that every one that sought YHWH went out to the tabernacle at the appointed place that was outside the encampment. And when Moses went out to the tabernacle, then all the people rose up, and each man stood at his tent door and watched Moses until he entered into the tabernacle. Then as Moses entered into the tabernacle, the pillar of cloud mass descended and stood at the entrance of the tabernacle, and YHWH talked with Moses. And all the people saw the pillar of cloud mass stand at the tabernacle entrance, and all the people rose up and bowed down, every man at the entrance of his tent. YHWH spoke to Moses face to face as a man speaks to his friend. And he returned again to the encampment, but his servant Joshua, the son of Nun, a young man, did not depart from within the tabernacle. Moses said to YHWH, "See here, you say to me to bring up this people, and you have not let me know the one you will send with me. Yet you have said, I know you by name, and you have secured favor in my eyes. Now therefore, if I have secured favor in your eyes, cause me to know the journey, that I may acknowledge you and continue in your favor, and consider that this nation is your people." And he answered, "My presence will go with you, and I will give you rest." And he replied to him, "If your presence is not going, then take us not up from this place. How will it be known then that I, and the nation, have found favor in your eyes unless you go with us? So will we be marked out from all other peoples that are on the surface of this earth." YHWH spoke to Moses, "I will do this very thing that you have spoken, because you have found favor in my sight, and I know you by name." And he replied, "I pray to you, show me your glory." YHWH answered, "I will make all my goodness pass by you, and I will proclaim in your hearing the name of YHWH in your presence, and will show favor to whom I will show favor, and will show tender affection on whom I will show tender affection." He also said, "You cannot see my face, for no man of earth can see me and live." Then YHWH said, "There is a standing place near me, and you can station yourself upon this rock. When my glory passes by, then I will set you in a crevice of this rock, and will screen you with my hand while I pass by. And I will take my hand away, and you will see my backside, but my face shall not be seen." YHWH spoke to Moses, "Cut out 2 tablets of stone similar to the first, and I will write on these tablets the words that were in the first tablets that you broke in pieces. Be ready in the morning, and come up at sunrise to Mount Sinai, and present yourself there to me at the top of the mountain. No other man will ascend up with you, and let no man be seen throughout all the mountain. The flocks and herds will not be permitted to graze on the mountain either." Then he cut 2 tablets of stone similar to the first, and Moses got up early in the morning and went up to Mount Sinai, as YHWH had commanded him, and took in his hand the 2 tablets of stone. YHWH descended in the cloud mass and stood with him there, proclaiming the name of YHWH. YHWH passed by before him and proclaimed, YHWH, YHWH Elohim, compassionate and gracious, slow to anger, and abundant in goodness and truth, preserving goodness for thousands, taking away depravity, transgression and sin, and not entirely acquitting but charging the depravity of fathers on children, and on the grandchildren, to the 3rd and 4th generations. Then Moses hurried, and bowed his head down towards the land, and prostrated himself. And said, "If now I have found grace in your sight, O Adonai, let my Adonai go among us, although this is an obstinate people, and forgive our depravity and sinfulness, and take us for your inheritance." And he answered, "I will carve out a covenant pledge before all your people, and I will act with extraordinary actions, such as has not been done in all the land or in any nation. Then all people among those you find yourselves with will see the deeds of YHWH, and it will be a fearful thing that I will do with you. Observe what I command you this day. I will expel from your presence the Amorite, Canaanite, Hittite, Perizzite, Hivite, and the Jebusite. Be careful not to carve an alliance with the inhabitants of the land where you go, or they will become a snare among you. But you will break down their altars, break in pieces their images, and cut down their groves. For you will bow down to no other Elohim, for YHWH, whose name is jealous, is a jealous Elohim. Be careful not to carve an alliance out with the inhabitants of the land, because when they commit prostitution with their Elohim and sacrifice to their Elohim, and then invite you over, then certainly you will eat of his sacrifices to dead things. And you take of their daughters for your sons, and their daughters commit prostitution with their Elohim, that in turn causes your sons to commit fornication after their Elohim. You will fashion and cast yourselves no metal Elohim. The feast of unleavened bread will you observe. 7 days you will eat unleavened bread, as I commanded you, at the appointed place in the month Abib, for in the month Abib you came out from Egypt. All the firstborn of the womb are mine, including every firstborn among your cattle, whether ox or sheep that is born a male. But the firstborn of a donkey you will ransom with a lamb, and if you ransom it not, then you will break its neck. All the firstborn of your sons you will ransom. And none will appear in my presence empty. 6 days you will work, but on the 7th day you will rest, in plowing time and in harvest you will rest. You will observe the feast of weeks, of the first fruits of wheat harvest, and the feast of ingathering at the year's end. 3 times in the year will all your male children appear before Yhwh Elohim, the Elohim of Israel. For I will dispossess the nations before you and widen your borders, and no one will covet your land when you will go up to appear before Yhwh Elohim 3 times in the year. You will not offer the blood of my sacrifice with yeast, and the sacrifice of the feast of the Passover will not be left until sunrise. The best of the first fruits of your land you will bring to the house of Yhwh Elohim. You will not boil a young male goat in his mother's milk. Yhwh spoke to Moses, "Write these words, because after the speaking of these words I have carved a covenant pledge with you and with Israel." Moses was there with Yhwh 40 days and 40 nights, and he did not eat bread or drink water. And Yhwh engraved on the tablets the words of the covenant pledge, the 10 Commandments. Now when Moses descended from Mount Sinai with the 2 tablets of testimony in Moses' hand, when he descended from the mountain, Moses did not know that the skin of his face radiated light while he had talked with him. And when Aaron and all the children of Israel saw Moses, that the skin of his face radiated light, then they were afraid to come near to him. And Moses called to them, and Aaron and all the chiefs of the assembly returned to him, and Moses talked with them. Then afterwards all the children of Israel came near, and he charged them with all that Yhwh had spoken with him in Mount Sinai. And after Moses had finished speaking to them, he took a veil and put it over his face. But when Moses went in before Yhwh to speak with him, he took the veil off until he came out. And when he came out to speak to the children of Israel what he had been commanded, then the children of Israel saw the face of Moses' skin radiating light, and Moses put the veil back on his face again until he went in to speak with him again. Moses gathered all the company of the children of Israel together and said to them, "These are the words that Yhwh has commanded, that you should act on them. 6 days will work be done, but on the 7th day there will be for you a holy day, a Sabbath of rest to Yhwh. Whoever does work on that day will be put to death. You will kindle no fire throughout your habitations on the Sabbath day." Moses spoke to all the company of the children of Israel, saying, "This is the thing that Yhwh commanded, take from among yourselves a heave offering for Yhwh. Everyone whose heart is willing, let him bring it, the heave offering of Yhwh, gold, silver, brass, blue, purple, scarlet, fine linen, and female goats, hair, and ram skins dyed red, and animal hides, and acacia wood, and oil for the light, and spices for anointing oil, and for the spices of incense, and onyx stones, and stones to be set in the ephod and for the breastplate. And all that have a skillful inclination among you will come and fashion all that Yhwh has commanded. The tabernacle, tent and its covering, hooks, boards, bars, pillars and its sockets, the ark, and the bars with the covering lid, and the curtain veil, the table and its bars with all its vessels, and the presence bread. The lampstand also for the light and its articles, and its lamps with the oil for the light. The incense altar and its bars with the anointing oil, and the spices of incense, and the covering for the entrance of the tabernacle. The altar of whole burnt offering with its brass grating, its bars, and all its vessels, the basin and its pedestal. The curtains of the court, its pillars and their sockets, the curtain for the entrance of the court, the tent pegs of the tabernacle, the pegs for the court and their cords. The garments of braided work for service in the holy place, the holy garments for Aaron the priest, and the garments for his sons to serve in the priesthood. Then all the company of the children of Israel departed from the presence of Moses. And they came, everyone whose mind was stirred, and everyone whose inner disposition was made willing, and they brought Yhwh's heave offering for the work of the tabernacle at the appointed place, and for all its service and for the holy garments. And they came, both men and women, as many as were willingly inclined, and brought bracelets, earrings, rings, golden ornaments, all vessels of gold, even every man who waved a wave offering of gold to Yhwh. And every man who was found with blue, purple, scarlet, fine linen, goats, hair, red skins of rams, and animal hides brought them willingly. Every one lifting up a heave offering of silver and brass has brought in the heave offering of Yhwh, and every one who has been found with acacia wood for any work of the service brought it in. Then all the women that were skillfully inclined spun yarns with their hands, and brought what they had spun, both of blue, purple, scarlet, and of fine linen. And all the women whose minds inclined them with skill spun goats, hair. The chiefs brought onyx stones, and stones to be set for the ephod, and for the breastplate, and spice, and oil for the light, and for the anointing oil, and for the spices of incense. The children of Israel brought a freewill offering to Yhwh, every man and woman whose minds made them willing to give of all types of workmanship that Yhwh had commanded to be fashioned by the hand of Moses. Moses said to the children of Israel, "See, Yhwh has called by name Bezaleel the son of Uri, the son of Hur, of the tribe of Judah, And he has filled him with the spirit of Elohim, in skill and understanding and in knowledge for all these facets of workmanship. To design artistic works, to work in gold, silver, brass, and in stone cutting, to set them, and in carving of wood for making any type of artistic workmanship. YHWH has given him a mind to teach, both he and Aholiab, the son of Ahisamach, of the tribe of Dan. Them has he filled with administrative skills of mind for accomplishing all facets of workmanship for the engraver, designers, and the embroiderers in blue, purple, scarlet, and fine linen, and for the weavers, even of them that fashion any work and of those that are inventive. Then Bezaleel and Aholiab with every skillfully inclined man took action, those who YHWH bestowed skill and understanding on, to know how to fashion all facets of workmanship for the service of the sacred place, according to all that YHWH had commanded. Moses called Bezaleel and Aholiab with every skillfully inclined man in whose mind YHWH had put skill, even every one whose inner man inspired him to come and to accomplish this work. They received from Moses all the heave offerings that the children of Israel had brought for the work of the service of the sacred place, to accomplish everything with. And they brought free will offerings to him every sunrise. Then all the skillful men who designed left their current jobs to do all the work at the sacred place. And they spoke to Moses saying, "The people are bringing much more than needed for the service of the work that YHWH commanded us to accomplish." Moses gave commandment, and proclamation was made throughout the encampment, saying, "Let not man or woman make any more material for the heave offering of the sacred place," and the people were restrained from bringing more. For the assets they had were sufficient to accomplish the task, and there was much left over. And every skillfully inclined man among them that produced the work of the tabernacle fashioned 10 curtains of finely twisted linen of blue, purple, and scarlet, with the designs of cherubim worked into the weaving as how they fashioned them. The length of one curtain was 42 feet and its width 6 feet, the curtains were all the same size. And he joined the 5 curtains one to another, and the other 5 curtains he joined together too. He made loops of blue along the outer border of one set of curtains, and they did the same for the outer border of the other set of curtains. He made 50 loops for each curtain, and they also made 50 loops for the end curtain of the second set, the loops being opposite to each other. He made 50 hooks of gold and joined the curtains to one another with these hooks, and so it became one tabernacle. He made curtains of goats' hair, for the tent over the tabernacle. 11 curtains were fashioned. The length of one curtain was 45 feet and its width 6 feet, the 11 curtains were the same size. He joined 5 curtains by themselves and 6 curtains by themselves. He made 50 loops on the outer border of the curtain, in the joining, and 50 loops he made on the border of the curtain that is joining the second, and he made 50 hooks of brass to join the tent together so that it will be one. He made a covering for the tent of ram's skins dyed red, and a covering of animal hides above that. He made upright frames for the tabernacle out of acacia wood. The length of a board was 15 feet, and its width was 2 1/4 feet. One board had 2 tenons equally spaced from each other, and so all the boards for the tabernacle were made in this way. He made boards for the tabernacle, 20 boards for the south side southward, and 40 sockets of silver he made under the 20 boards, 2 sockets under each board for its 2 tenons, and 2 sockets under another board for its 2 tenons. For the other side of the tabernacle that is towards the north side he made 20 boards and there 40 sockets of silver, 2 sockets under each board and 2 sockets under another board. And for the sides of the tabernacle westward he made 6 boards, and 2 boards he made for the corners of the tabernacle for its 2 sides. And they were joined together at the base and at the top to one ring, thereby forming the 2 corners. There were 8 boards, and their sockets were 16 sockets of silver, under every board 2 sockets. He made bars of acacia wood, 5 for the boards on the one side of the tabernacle, and 5 bars for the boards of the other side of the tabernacle, and 5 bars for the boards of the tabernacle for the sides westward. He made the middle bar to go through the middle of the boards from the one end to the other, and he overlaid the boards with gold, and made their rings of gold to be receptacles for the bars, and overlaid the bars with gold. He made a veil of blue, purple and scarlet, and finely twisted linen with cherubim fashioned by their design work. He made 4 pillars of acacia wood and overlaid them with gold, their hooks were of gold, and he cast for them 4 sockets of silver. He made a covering for the tabernacle door of blue, purple, scarlet, and of finely twisted linen of skillful needlework, and the 5 pillars for it with their hooks, and he overlaid their capitals and their cross rods with gold, but their 5 sockets were of bronze. Then Bezaleel fashioned the ark of acacia wood, 3 3/4 feet in length by 2 1/4 feet wide and 2 1/4 feet high. He overlaid it with pure gold inside and out, and made a border molding of gold to go around it. He cast for it 4 rings of gold, to be set by its 4 corners, even 2 rings on one side of it, and 2 rings on the other side. He made bars of acacia wood and overlaid them with gold, and he inserted the bar poles into the rings by the sides of the ark to carry the ark. He fashioned the covering lid of pure gold, 3¾ feet in length by 2¼ feet being the width of it. He made 2 cherubim of gold, beaten out of one piece, for the 2 sides of the covering lid, 1 cherub at the end on one side, and another cherub on the opposite end. Out of the covering lid material he fashioned the cherubim on its 2 sides. The cherubim spread out their wings above, and covering with their wings overshadowed the covering lid, with their faces each facing one another. The faces of the cherubim were also looking downward towards the covering lid. He made the table of acacia wood, 3 feet in length by 1½ feet wide by 2¼ feet high. He overlaid it with pure gold and made a border molding of gold around it. Also he fashioned a 3-inch border around it and made a rim of gold for the border that encircled it. He cast for it 4 rings of gold, and put the rings on the 4 corners that pertained to its 4 feet. Near to the border were the rings, the places for the bar poles to carry the table. He made the bars of acacia wood and overlaid them with gold to carry the table. He fashioned the vessels that were on the table, its dishes, spoons, bowls, and its jars to pour out from, made of pure gold. He made the lampstand of pure gold. Of hammered work he fashioned the lampstand, its shaft, branch, bowls, bulbs, and its flowers, were made of the same, and 6 branches going out from the sides of it. 3 branches of the lampstand went out from one side, and 3 branches of the lamp from the other side. 3 bowls made after the fashion of almonds for one branch, a bulb and a flower, and 3 bowls fashioned like almonds in another branch, a bulb and a flower, so for the 6 branches coming out of the lampstand. And in the lampstand were 4 bowls fashioned like almonds, its bulbs, and its flowers, and a bulb under 2 branches of the same, and a bulb under 2 branches of the same, and a bulb under 2 branches of the same, according to the 6 branches going out of it. Their bulbs and their branches were made of the same material, all of it was one hammered work of pure gold. And he fashioned it 7 lamps, snuffers, and its fire holder of pure gold. From 75 pounds of pure gold made he it, including all its vessels. He made the incense altar of acacia wood, square, 1½ feet being both its length and width, and 3 feet in height. The horns of it were also fashioned of the same piece. He overlaid it with pure gold, both the top of it, the sides of it all around including the horns of it. He also fashioned for it a border molding of gold to encircle it. He made 2 rings of gold for it under its border moldings, near its 2 corners on each side of it, to be receptacles for the bar poles to carry it. He made the bars of acacia wood and overlaid them with gold. He produced the holy anointing oil and the pure incense of spices, according to the work of the perfumer. He made the altar of burnt offering of acacia wood, square, 7½ feet being both its length and width, and 4½ feet in height. He fashioned the horns on its 4 corners, the horns of it were made of the same piece, and he overlaid it with bronze. He made all the vessels of the altar, the pots, shovels, bowls, the 3-pronged fork and the fire holder, all its vessels he made of bronze. He made for the altar a brass grating of network under the rim of the altar beneath, placed in the inside center of the altar. He cast 4 rings for its 4 ends of the great work of brass to be receptacles for the bar poles. He made the bars of acacia wood and overlaid them with bronze. He inserted the bar poles into the rings on the sides of the altar, to carry it about, and he designed the altar to be hollow with boards. He made the bowls of brass and its pedestal of brass according to the visions from the women serving that served near the entrance of the tabernacle at the appointed place. He made the court, on the south side southward the curtains of the court made of finely twisted linen and measuring 150 feet in length. There were 20 pillars with their 20 brass sockets, the hooks of the pillars and their binders were of silver. At the north side 150 feet, their 20 pillars, and their 20 brass sockets, the hooks of the pillars and their binders of silver. The west side was 75 feet wide and had curtains, with their 10 pillars and their 10 sockets, the hooks of the pillars and their binders of silver. And for the east side eastward 75 feet wide. The curtains for one side of the gate were 22½ feet long with their 3 pillars and their 3 sockets. And for the other side of the court gate, on this side and that side were curtains of 22½ feet long, with their 3 pillars and their 3 sockets. All the curtains enclosing the court were of finely twisted linen. The sockets for the pillars were of brass, the hooks of the pillars and their binders of silver, and the capitals were molded with silver, and all the pillars of the court were molded with silver too. The curtain for the entrance of the court was embroidered, of blue, purple, scarlet, and finely twisted linen and 30 feet in length, and its height was 7½ feet corresponding to the curtains of the court. Their 4 pillars, and 4 brass sockets, their hooks of silver and the capitals with their silver moldings, and all the pegs of the tabernacle and of the court enclosing it were of bronze. This is the reckoning for the tabernacle, even of the tabernacle of testimony as it was counted, according to the commandment of Moses for the service of the Levites, by the hand of Itamar, son to Aaron the priest. And Bezaleel the son of Uri, the son of Hur, of the tribe of Judah, fashioned all that Yhwh commanded Moses. And with him was Aholiab, son of Ahisamach, of the tribe of Dan, an engraver, designer, and an embroiderer in blue, purple, scarlet and fine linen. All the gold that was acquired for the entire work of the holy place, including the gold of the offering, equaled 2,200 pounds according to the sanctuary shekel. The silver from them that were numbered of the assembly was 7,545 pounds, according to the sanctuary shekel. A bekah for every man, that is, half a shekel, about 1/5 ounce, after the sanctuary shekel, for everyone numbered in the census from 20 years old and upward for the 603,550 men. And of the 7,500 pounds of silver used to cast the sockets for the holy place and for the curtain, 100 sockets from the 7.500 pounds of silver, 75 pounds for each socket. And of the 1,775 shekels, 45 pounds, he made hooks for the pillars, and overlaid their capitals and molded them. And the bronze of the offering was 5,310 pounds, and 2,400 shekels, and he fashioned with it the sockets of the entrance of the tabernacle at the appointed place, the brass altar and its great work and all the vessels of the altar. And the sockets of the court enclosure, the sockets for the court entrance, all the pegs of the tabernacle and all the pegs of the court enclosure. From the blue, purple, and scarlet they fashioned clothes of braided work for the service in the holy place, and fashioned the holy garments for Aaron as Yhwh commanded Moses. He fashioned the ephod of gold, blue, purple, and scarlet of finely twisted linen. And they beat the gold into thin plates and cut it into threads to work it in the blue, purple and scarlet of the fine linen with artistic achievement. They fashioned shoulder pieces for it, to join it together by its two ends so it could be fastened. And the girdle of his ephod that is on it is of the same, according to its work, of gold, blue, purple, and scarlet of finely twisted linen as Yhwh has commanded Moses. They jeweled onyx stones cased in settings of gold, engraved as seals are carved, with the names of the children of Israel. He set them on the shoulders of the ephod, that they should be stones of memorial for the children of Israel as Yhwh commanded Moses. He fashioned the breastplate with artistic achievement like the work of the ephod of gold, blue, purple, and scarlet of finely twisted linen. It was square and they made the breastplate folded double to form a pouch, at 9 inches long by 9 inches being folded to form the pouch. They set in it 4 rows of stones. The first row was a sardius, a topaz, and a carbuncle. This was the first row. The second row, an emerald, a sapphire, and a diamond. The third row, a ligure, an agate, and an amethyst. The fourth row, a beryl, an onyx, and a jasper. They were enclosed in settings of gold in their casings. The stones were according to the names of the children of Israel, 12, according to their names like the engravings of a seal, every one with its name, according to the 12 tribes. They fashioned on the breastplate chains at the ends of interwoven foliage work of pure gold. They made 2 gold settings and 2 gold rings, setting the 2 rings of the 2 ends of the breastplate. They set the 2 interwoven foliage chains of gold in the 2 rings at the ends of the breastplate. The 2 ends of the 2 interwoven foliage chains they fastened in the 2 settings, and put them on the shoulder pieces of the ephod in the front of it. They fashioned 2 rings of gold and set them on the 2 ends of the breastplate, on its border that is towards the ephod on its inward edge. They made 2 rings of gold and set them on the 2 shoulders of the ephod below, opposite its front, opposite its joining, above the girdle of the ephod. They bound the breastplate by its rings to the rings of the ephod with a lace of blue that it might be above the girdle of the ephod, and that the breastplate might not be removed from the ephod as Yhwh commanded Moses. He made the robe of the ephod all of blue woven work. And there was an opening in the middle of the robe, and there comprises a woven border, similar to a collar, around the opening, and this will prevent it from tearing. They fashioned on the hems of the robe pomegranates of blue, purple, and scarlet of twisted threads. They fashioned bells of pure gold and set the bells between the pomegranates on the hem of the robe between the pomegranates. A bell and a pomegranate encircling the hem of the robe to serve in as Yhwh commanded Moses. They made coats of fine linen of woven work for Aaron and for his sons, and a turban of fine linen, ornamental turbans of fine linen, and linen underwear of finely twisted linen. The girdle of finely twisted linen being blue, purple, and scarlet of mixed colors as Yhwh commanded Moses. They designed the plate of the holy crown of pure gold, and wrote on it a writing similar to the engravings of a seal, holiness to Yhwh. They tied to it a lace of blue, to fasten it on the top on the turban, as Yhwh commanded Moses. So was all the work of the tabernacle/tent at the appointed place completed, and the children of Israel accomplished everything that YHWH commanded Moses, and so it was done. They brought the tabernacle/tent to Moses, and all its furniture, hooks, boards, bars, pillars, sockets, and the covering of ram skins dyed red, the covering of animal hides, and the veil of the covering. The ark of the testimony, bars, the covering lid, the table, and all its vessels, and the presence bread. The pure lampstand with the lamps, even with the lamps to be set in rank, and all the vessels and the oil for light. The golden altar and the anointing oil, spice and incense, and the curtain for the tabernacle entrance, the brass altar and its great work of bronze, bars, and all its vessels including the bowl and its pedestal. The curtains of the court, pillars, sockets, and the curtains for the court entrance, cords, pegs, and all the vessels of the service of the tabernacle for the tent at the appointed place. The clothes of service to do service in the holy place, and the holy garments for Aaron the priest and his sons' garments, to serve in the priesthood. According to all that YHWH commanded Moses, so the children of Israel accomplished all the work. Then Moses inspected all the work, and they had accomplished it as YHWH had commanded, so Moses blessed them. YHWH spoke to Moses saying, "On the first day of the first month will you set up the tabernacle of the tent at the appointed place. You will place in it the ark of the testimony and cover the ark with the veil. You will bring in the table and set in order the things that are to be set in order on it, and you will bring in the lampstand and light the lamps. You will set the altar of gold for the incense in front of the ark of the testimony, and put up the curtain of the entrance to the tabernacle. You will set the altar of the whole burnt offering before the entrance of the tabernacle, of the tent at the appointed place. You will set the bowl between the tent at the appointed place and the altar, and will put water in it. You will set up the court enclosure and put up the curtains at the court entrance. You will take the anointing oil and anoint the tabernacle and all that it comprises, and will consecrate it in all its vessels so that it will be holy. You will anoint the altar of the whole burnt offering and all its vessels, and consecrate the altar, and it will be the most holy altar. You will anoint the bowl and its pedestal and consecrate it. You will bring Aaron and his sons to the entrance of the tabernacle at the appointed place and wash them with water. You will put on Aaron the holy garments and anoint him, and consecrate him so that he may serve me in the priesthood. You will bring his sons and clothe them with clothing. You will anoint them as you did anoint their father, that they may serve me in the priesthood, for their anointing will certainly be an age-lasting priesthood throughout their generations." Moses did according to all that YHWH commanded him, and so it was accomplished. Then in the first month in the second year, on the first day of the month, the tabernacle was reared up. Moses reared up the tabernacle and fastened its sockets, and set up its boards, and put in the bar poles and raised up its pillars. He spread out the tent over the tabernacle and placed the covering of the tent above it as YHWH commanded Moses. He took and placed the testimony in the ark and inserted the bar poles on the ark, and set the covering lid on top of the ark. He brought the ark into the tabernacle and set up the veil of the curtain, thereby screening off the ark of the testimony as YHWH commanded Moses. He set the table in the tent at the appointed place on the side of the tabernacle northward outside the veiled area. He set the bread in order on it before YHWH as he had commanded Moses. He placed the lampstand in the tent at the appointed place opposite the table, on the side of the tabernacle southward. He lighted the lamps before YHWH as he commanded Moses. He placed the golden altar in the tent at the appointed place in front of the veil, and he burnt spices of incense on it as YHWH commanded Moses. He set up the curtain at the entrance of the tabernacle. He put the altar of whole burnt offering by the entrance of the tabernacle in the tent at the appointed place, and offered on it the whole burnt offering and the meat offering as YHWH commanded Moses. He placed the bowl between the tent at the appointed place and the altar, and put water in it to wash with. Moses and Aaron and his sons washed their hands and their feet with the bowl of water. When they went into the tent at the appointed place, and when they came close to the altar, they washed as YHWH commanded Moses. He raised up the court enclosure around the tabernacle and altar, and set up the curtain of the court entrance. So Moses completed the work. Then a cloud mass concealed the tent at the appointed place, and the glory of YHWH consecrated the tabernacle. Moses was not able to enter into the tent at the appointed place because the cloud mass placed itself there, and the glory of YHWH filled the tabernacle. And when the cloud mass ascended from over the tabernacle, the children of Israel pulled up and broke camp. But if the cloud mass did not ascend, then they did not journey until the day that it ascended up. For the cloud mass of YHWH was on the tabernacle by day, and supernatural fire was on it at night, in the sight of all the house of Israel, whenever they pulled up the pegs and broke camp in their pilgrimage.